Phoenix Nights. Chapter 78. The news of Dongwu Shuang and Xiang Pengyun fighting for hundreds of miles and dying together at the Black Wind Cliffs spread like wildfire. This sensational news spread like wildfire. Of course, the secret that Xiang Pengyun was a demonic beast was kept a secret. How many years has it been since our water rights town produced such an amazing expert? He's only 22 years old, yet he was able to fight the legendary Xiang Pengyun to a stalemate. They fought for hundreds of miles and finally died together. An old man in the tavern shook his head in grief. Such a talent, in the future, he would definitely become a legendary transcendent. Such a pity, to fall like this. Just thinking about it makes my heart ache. Old man Song, who is Xiang Pengyun? Someone suddenly shouted. Truly ignorant. The old man sneered, too lazy to say anything more. Xiang Pengyun is the #1 expert in the entire Azure River County. He's even stronger than the Sea Clan's ancestor who has lived for hundreds of years. It is said that he's only a step away from becoming a transcendent. Even if Dongwu Shuang started cultivating when he was in his mother's womb, he's only cultivated for 22 years. Yet he was able to fight evenly with Xiang Pengyun and even perished together. Don't you think that Dongwu Shuang is amazing? Our water rights town is such a small place. How many tens of thousands of years would it be hard for such a person to appear? The news of this battle spread like wildfire in the Azure River County. Even other places in the Tranquil Sun Province, and even other provinces, would occasionally discuss about it. Even though the news spread did not mention that Shuang had grasped hold of the realm of myriad existences, and that he could perish together with Xiang Pengyun, and that he was so young, he could be considered a monster in the entire Dragon Mountain Empire. Eastfield Province, Thunder Tide Shore. Rumble. The seawater crashed over and over again, creating countless snow-white waves. On the Thunder Tide Shore, there were many caves with locked doors. These caves were used to imprison some of the Mo Yang clan's prisoners. Only those with special identities would be locked up for long periods of time. Clang! A heavy door opened, and a maidservant went in to deliver food and drinks. The Thunder Tide Shore was a forbidden area, and there was a spell formation around it. There was no need to worry about the criminals escaping. In the dark cave, a purple-robed woman was standing in front of a smooth stone wall. She had a carving knife in her hand, and she was easily carving a spell model on the stone wall. She was frowning and thinking hard. Because she was in confinement, she didn't have good experimental conditions, and she didn't have many papers and pens. She only had a carving knife with her brother's help. The spell models carved on the stone walls were just references. Most of the calculations were deduced and analyzed in her mind. Although Mo Yang was in confinement, she was able to concentrate on comprehending magic techniques. Madam. The maid put down the food and said softly. En? Mo Yang turned her head and looked at the maid. Why are you still here? Is there something? Usually, the maid would quietly leave after putting down the food. A lord has asked me to pass on a message, the maid said. Milord? Mo Yang frowned. Who? Lord Mo Yang Chenbai, the maid said. Humph, what message does he want to pass on? I want to hear it. Mo Yang sneered. The maid took a deep breath and said, Lord Mo Yang Chenbai said, Mo Yang you have given birth to an extraordinary son. He is only 22 years old, but he was able to fight with the #1 expert of Azure River County, Xiang Pengyun. The two of them fought for hundreds of miles, and finally, both of them perished at Black Wind Cliff. To have such a son, I have to congratulate you. The maid was slightly nervous. Madam, I will take my leave. She was just a little maid. Mo Yang Chenbai had ordered her to pass on a message, so how could she dare to refuse? Mo Yang stood there motionlessly, but tears flowed down her cheeks. Wait a moment. Mo Yang suddenly shouted. The maid who was on her way out stopped. Tell me, is what he said true? Mo Yang couldn't help but ask. The maid quickly replied. Reporting to Madam, it is indeed true. The battle between Dongwu Shuang and Xiang Pangyun is now a hot topic in the Mo Yang clan. There are also many people who say that if we had brought Dongwu Shuang back, our Mo Yang clan would have become even more powerful. This news is already from 3 months ago. Mo Yanyu lightly waved her hand, and the maid respectfully retreated. After the maid left, the heavy door closed once again. Mo Yanyu's body went limp as she sat on the ground. Her hands clutched the ground, and her fingers turned white. She said in a trembling voice, "Snow Eagle, I have let you down, I have let you down, my son!" In Mo Yanyu's mind, there was only the scene of their separation that year. Her eldest son, Dongwu Shuang, was holding the hand of her youngest son, Qin Shi, as they stood at the entrance of the castle. "Father, mother, I, Dongwu Shuang, swear. I will definitely save you and bring you back. Our family will definitely be reunited, definitely. I swear! I swear, I will definitely save you. No one will be able to stop me." Her son's tender voice seemed to still be ringing in her ears. Mo Yangyu's face was already full of tears, and her body was trembling. "Snow Eagle, my son, why did it become like this, why?" East Fragrant Lake Refinery, inside the Mage Tower. "Dongwu Lai, quick, move all these away." In a laboratory room, there was a pile of charred waste, and a young male mage shouted loudly, "Coming, coming!" Dongwu Lai was wearing a somewhat tattered cloth, and very skillfully started to clean up the mess. "Dongwu Lai, Mo Yangqinbai asked me to tell you a piece of news," the young male mage said. "It's about your son, Dongwu Shuang." "Snow Eagle?" Dongwu Lai's body trembled. "Your son, Dongwu Shuang, is really amazing. He fought a life and death battle with Xiang Pangyun, from Snowrock Mountain all the way to Black Wind Cliff. They fought for more than 100 miles, and finally died together," the young male mage said as he turned around and walked out. "Speaking of which, I really admire your son, he is really amazing. Unfortunately, he died too early. Oh right, remember to clean up this place." Dongwu Lai felt that everything around him had lost its color, and unconsciously, the mess in his hands fell to the ground. He was stunned, and his body slightly trembled. Eternal Wind Academy. Jing Qiu, who had been in seclusion for more than a month, walked out of her own mage tower. Breathing the outside air, her face was full of smiles. In the sea of mages, every time she broke through a difficulty, she would feel joy and a sense of accomplishment from the bottom of her heart. This is really embarrassing. It's embarrassing, the whole academy has so many students and teachers, but they were all reprimanded by the Eternal Wind Academy. 2 female mages walked side by side, a slightly plump female mage muttered, "They say that our entire Eternal Wind Academy doesn't have a genius like Dongwu Shuang, but speaking of which, we really can't compare to him. He was only 22 years old, but he was able to fight on par with Xiang Pangyun, and finally died together. I've been in the academy for so long, but this is the first time I've seen the Eternal Wind Academy's dean. I didn't expect it to be because of Dongwu Shuang. The Eternal Wind Academy's dean has been cultivating for 8 to 10 years. Many students have never had the chance to see the dean since they entered the academy. To be able to see him once is already a great fortune. I can hear that the dean is very sad about Dongwu Shuaying's matter, he told us. I guess it's to encourage us." That's right, Dongwu Shuaying didn't have a powerful teacher to guide him, and only trained by himself, yet he was able to become so strong. Speaking of this, it's really a pity that such a genius died like this. The 2 female mages talked as they walked. Jing Qiu, on the other hand, was stunned. The Eternal Wind Academy's dean's appearance was a big deal, but there was another piece of news that shocked her even more. Dongwu Shuang, Jing Qiu was confused. He's dead? She could still remember the black-robed young man who had dashed towards her in the midst of her despair, in the midst of the countless rocks that had exploded. The black-robed young man who had used a shield to block all the falling rocks in the darkness, completely protecting her. The seemingly ordinary man, but he was like a huge mountain. Impossible! There must be something wrong with the news, there must be. Jing Qiu immediately ran to ask the others in the academy. Dongwu Shuang had no idea what was happening in the outside world. In the vast and majestic dilapidated main hall, Dongwu Shuang sat cross-legged, cultivating. The surging energy of the heavens and earth surged continuously into his body, and was absorbed by his body. It had been almost 5 months since he fell into the black wind abyss. These days he had been cultivating, trying his best to increase his strength. Phew! Dongwu Shuang opened his eyes. They were very bright. Finally, my body has reached its limit. I can no longer increase it any further. Dongwu Shuang felt the vigorous power in his body. His speed, strength, and many other aspects had all reached an extremely shocking level. I should give it a try. There should be some hope of defeating these two transcendent alchemy creatures. Dongwu Shuang looked at the golden ape and golden rock in the distance. 5 months had passed, and these two transcendent alchemy creatures had not taken a single step out of the boundary. Chapter 79. Dongwu Shuang wielded the Feishui godly spear as he walked towards the two golden statues. The golden ape opened its eyes. Mortal, you're still coming? With your current strength, there's no hope for you. Perhaps there might be a surprise this time, Dongwu Shuang replied. After which, a faint blood-colored aura appeared on the surface of his body. The power bloodline was activated. South! Dongwu Shuang leaped out as his entire body was bathed in flames. The raging flames engulfed the surroundings, including the golden ape and the golden rock which had its eyes closed. At the same time, he raised the spear in his hands up high, and with a might akin to the collision of stars, he smashed it down towards the golden ape. A head-on clash? Mortal, you're really reckless! The golden ape watched as Dongwu Shuang prepared his attack in midair. Following which, it waved its hands confidently as it welcomed the attack with its palm. In terms of strength, it was still very confident. Boom! The spear struck the golden palm furiously, and a powerful shockwave could be felt. The golden ape's arm could not help but bend, and its body was forced to take 3 heavy steps back. Its eyes were filled with shock. Even though one side had prepared his attack, and the other side had casually received it. But to be able to force it to take 3 steps back, it was obvious that the strength of both sides was on par. Your strength is really great, monkey. However, this time, you're going to lose for sure. Dongwu Shuang was filled with confidence. The moment he landed on the ground, he dashed forward as fast as a spectre. So fast. The golden ape hurriedly waved its long chains, which danced in the air as it tried to block Dongwu Shuang. Clang, clang, clang. Dongwu Shuang's speed was obviously much faster than before. His physique had improved tremendously, allowing his agility and many other aspects to reach new heights. Previously, he already had an advantage in terms of agility. Now, his advantage was even greater. The golden ape's chains were completely unable to hit Dongwu Shuang. Dongwu Shuang dodged them easily, and occasionally blocked with his spear. Bam, bam, bam! The spear lashed out again and again, hitting some of the joints of the golden ape's body, causing it to stagger. Little bird, I can't hold on any longer! The golden ape anxiously shouted. Monkey, you're really useless! A golden figure whizzed over. With a solemn expression, Dongwu Shuang exerted strength from his waist and abdomen as he swept out with his spear. Hong! The might of the spear directly collided with the golden rock's wings. The golden rock was forced to take a step back, and Dongwu Shuang also took a step back. You have indeed improved greatly, said the golden rock hurriedly. Monkey, join forces. All right, the golden ape replied. Suddenly, the golden rock took the initiative to dive in front of him. Its wings were like blades slashing over, and sometimes they were like palm leaf fans. The golden rock's speed was extremely fast, but its strength was slightly weaker than his own. Relying on his exquisite spear technique, he could completely suppress it, but the golden ape was waving the strange and unpredictable chain again and again behind him. The ape grabbed the chain with both of its hands, and the 2 ends of the chain would occasionally shoot out, whip, or entangle. Strange and unpredictable. A single chain, combined with the golden rock, Although Dongbush Shuang clearly had the upper hand, he was still unable to break free from the golden rock's entanglement. Damn it! Dongbush Shuang clenched his teeth. The two of us have worked together for many years, and we specialize in entangling our enemies. Forget about you, even some transcendents would find it hard to break free from us. The golden ape said confidently. Although the two of us cannot defeat you, it is too easy to stop you. The golden rock was also very confident. With his spear, Dongbush Shuang fought against the two transcendent refiner organisms. His spear technique was exquisite, but he was unable to break free from the obstruction. Their creator is naturally a powerful transcendent mage. Dongbush Shuang understood. Mages have weak bodies, so they probably created these two refiner organisms to be used as shields to block their enemies. That way, mages would be able to easily cast powerful spells. This kind of meat shield might have weak attacks, but their defense and entanglement were top-notch. For example, these two transcendent refiner organisms. Their bodies were made of extraordinary materials, and he was unable to injure them. Their bodies were huge, and one of them was extremely fast. When they spread their wings, they could cover a distance of 20 to 30 meters. The other one had a strange and unpredictable chain. The chain's flying speed was much faster than his own movement speed. Time and time again, it would disrupt and disturb him. Could it be that I cannot defeat these two fellas? Dongbush Shuang was anxious. My strength has already reached a limit, and it is hard for me to increase it any further. Shuang used all his strength, but the golden rock and the golden ape, one in front and one behind, were like two walls blocking Shui Ying's way. They even used their bodies to block the entanglement. They were refiner organisms, and every part of their body could be used as a weapon. My food can only last me for another half a year. My only hope of leaving this place lies with these transcendent skeletons. An intense desire could be seen in Dongbush Shui Ying's eyes. There is no other way. This is my last option. Dongbush Shuang retreated out of the boundary. Giving up? The golden rock laughed coldly. Mortal, you do have some strength, but it is a pity that you are still lacking to defeat us. The golden ape said. Give up? How can I give up? Dongbush Shuang laughed. You guys are refiner organisms, and fighting will exhaust your energy, right? The more intense the battle, the more energy will be exhausted. You guys might be able to absorb energy from heaven and earth to replenish your energy, but the speed of replenishment will never be able to keep up with the rate of exhaustion. Once your energy is exhausted, you guys won't be able to move anymore, right? The golden ape and the golden rock were slightly taken aback. Take this. Dongbush Shuang wielded a spear, and flames surrounded him. He charged forward once again, but this time, he did not activate his bloodline of power. Actually, even if he did not activate his bloodline, Dongbush Shui Ying's physical strength was already much stronger than 5 months ago. As for his speed and agility, it was even more impressive. His current body was not any weaker than Xiang Pengyan's body. This was because Dongbush Shui Ying's human body was smaller, and his agility was even higher than that of the demonic beast. Rumble. Although Dongbush Shuang was unable to gain the upper hand without activating his bloodline, he was still able to fight evenly with the golden rock and the golden ape with his exquisite spear techniques and agility. Mortal, are you really going to continue killing like this? The golden ape was getting anxious. Of course. How could Dongbush Shuang give up on this hope of leaving this place? Any transcendent refiner organism had its own source of energy. Of course, it could make use of the formation within its body to absorb energy from the heavens and earth to replenish itself. However, this kind of replenishment was far from comparable to a real life. Monkey, perhaps our days of protection are coming to an end. The golden rock said. A complicated look appeared in the golden ape's eyes. Then, he whipped his chain towards Dongbush Shuang and said, Mortal, if you have the ability, exhaust both of our energy. No matter what, we will follow Master's orders and do our best to stop you. Come on then. Dongbush Shuang saw hope, and he was naturally filled with fighting spirit. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, this time, the battle lasted for a full 18 hours. Only then did Dongbush Shuang stop to rest due to exhaustion. The main reason was that the bloodline of power had used up too much of his stamina. Otherwise, he would have been able to last longer. Following that, he ate some food and absorbed the energy from the heavens and earth to replenish his stamina. Then, he meditated to recover his energy. Just 6 hours later, Shuang was as lively as a dragon and lively as a tiger. Again. The second long battle lasted for 3 days. After resting for 6 hours, he was full of energy again. Dongbush Shuang held the spear in his hand, and his body was bathed in flames as he attacked again. 15 days later, the golden ape and the golden rock sat down dispiritedly. You win. The golden ape's voice was slightly weak. What a freak. You humans recover too quickly. You only need 6 hours to fully recover. I'm afraid I will need 3 months to fully recover. There's no way I can continue fighting. He is a life form. We are just refiner organisms, the golden rock said. Both of their auras were weak, and they only had the strength to speak. If they were to continue fighting, they would not have the strength to do so. Dongbush Shuang was excited. He smiled and said, Both of you, I won't stand on ceremony then. Actually, my master has been waiting for a successor. However, he did not expect it to be a mortal. The golden ape shook his head and muttered. Dongbush Shuang walked forward. He first looked at the octagonal pool. There was a crystal-clear liquid in the pool, and there was a thin layer of mist on the surface. With a light sniff, he could smell a refreshing scent. His entire body quivered, and it felt as though his fatigue had dissipated. He felt much more spirited. This caused Dongbush Shuang's eyes to light up. What a good treasure! He then looked at the silver-robed skeleton sitting cross-legged on the stone bed in front of him. There was a silver bracelet on the stone bed next to the skeleton's right hand. He could tell that it was a storage bracelet with just a little sensing. Junior Dongbush Shuang greets Senior. Dongbush Shuang knelt down and paid his respects. Since he was able to obtain a treasure left behind by a transcendent, it was only right for him to pay his respects. Please forgive this junior for offending you. As he spoke, he waved his hand. Under the power of the heavens and earth, the silver bracelet flew from the stone bed to Dongbush Shuang's hand. Instantly, he infused his battle chi into the bracelet and refined it easily. Following which, he carefully examined the silver bracelet. What a huge space! The moment he examined it, Dongbush Shuang was stunned by the space within the silver bracelet. Chapter 80. The space inside the silver wristband was at least 30 meters long, wide, and high. It was simply a super-large warehouse. Previously, Shuang had obtained a storage ring that was 3 meters long, wide, and high, which was worth nearly 1,000,000 gold coins. How much would this silver bracelet be worth? I'm afraid that gold coins no longer mean much to transcendents. They can easily obtain the wealth and power of the mortal world. Dongbush Shuang sighed inwardly. He then took a closer look at the other items within the silver bracelet. The silver bracelet was empty, and there were very few items within. However, each and every one of them made Dongbush Shuang feel that they were extraordinary. The most eye-catching item was a black inner armor. The inner armor was glowing with starlight, and the aura it emitted was so strong that even Dongbush Shuang felt suffocated. So strong! The other eye-catching item was a long staff. The entire staff was crimson in color, and the aura it emitted was equally strong. There was also a huge pile of dusty cobblestones. When piled up, it was as tall as a human. However, these seemingly ordinary cobblestones were also emitting a dense aura of heaven and earth energy. Other than that, there were some miscellaneous items. There were books, some gold coins, and other miscellaneous items. Who? Shuang walked to the side. With a wave of his hand, he took out all the items within the silver wristband and placed them on the ground of the great hall. He did not care about the other treasures and directly went to where the books were. Heavenly water. Dongbush Shuang sat down cross-legged and casually picked up a book. Flipping it open, he could not help but reveal a look of curiosity. Transcendent Do-Chi cultivation technique? Do-Chi cultivation techniques circulated among mortals, be it low-grade, high-grade, or even transcendent-grade cultivation techniques, could only be cultivated to the transcendent realm. But after the transcendent realm, it was unknown. Only by stepping into the transcendent realm can one truly embark on the path of cultivation. This path is filled with difficulties and dangers. One must advance step by step. The final destination of the transcendent realm is to become a god. This book only briefly described the cultivation technique. After that, it was the detailed content of the cultivation technique. However, these few simple sentences caused Dongwu Shuang to be stunned. In many stories, there were deities. The Dragon Mountain Emperor was a deity. So this is the end of the extraordinary path. God? No wonder the Dragon Mountain Emperor was able to unify the world. Dongwu Shuang thought to himself as he flipped through the manual. This manual was after all a water attribute Do-Chi cultivation technique. It wasn't suitable for him at all. However, Dongwu Shuang had also gained a rough understanding of the transcendent path. After flipping through the book, Dongwu Shuang picked up another thick book, The Illustration of All Living Things. Dongwu Shuang took a quick look at the introduction of all sorts of transcendent beings, and all of them were extremely mystical. However, this was not what he needed right now, so he picked up another book. Eh? Dongwu Shuang's eyes lit up. Found it. There were no words on the cover of the gold leaf book. As soon as he flipped it open, the first paragraph of text was, I see God Palace Elder Leijin. I have lived for 1,500 years and have reached the end of my lifespan. This time, I will go into seclusion. I will either die in this Black Wind deity palace or break through to the demigod realm. Dongwu Shuang was slightly stunned. See God Palace? It should be some transcendent power. 1,500 years? That was truly a long lifespan. He wants to break through to the demigod realm? Dongwu Shuang thought to himself. Previously, when I looked at the Do-Chi cultivation techniques, the transcendent path was split into 3 stages: Sky Realm, Saint Realm, and Demigod Realm. It seems like this Sea God Palace Elder is a Saint Realm expert. Could it be that a Saint Realm expert can live for 1,500 years? Once he breaks through to the Demigod Realm, he can live even longer? Dongwu Shuang had many doubts. After all, his understanding of the transcendent world was too little. Following Dongwu Shuang, he continued to read the book. The next part of the book was more trivial. It was the memories of this transcendent expert, Leijin, from his life. Infernal world? Demonic faction? Sorcerer God Palace? Entering a small-scale world? Dongwu Shuang read through Leijin's memories and got a glimpse of the transcendent world. Soon, he reached the last page. In my life, I was already extremely lucky to be able to obtain the Stone of Oceanic Boundary. Successor. During my closed-door cultivation, all my other treasures were either sold or exchanged for treasures that could help me break through. The remaining treasures were extremely few. I only had a top-grade Saint-ranked inner armor that could protect my life, and a low-grade Saint-ranked long staff that could barely be used. If I failed to break through, what was the use of having a powerful weapon? Successor, if you were like me and only managed to enter by chance, these treasures that I left behind might be of some use to you. If you had defeated all the guards and gained control of the entire Black Wind deity palace, these treasures of mine would not be worth mentioning to you. Only the Stone of Oceanic Boundary would be of interest to you. Oh right, the Stone of Oceanic Boundary is in that pool. Dongwu Shuang looked at the octagonal pool. He had read the memoirs of Leijin, an extraordinary ranker, and he knew how precious the Stone of Oceanic Boundary was. It was the most precious core item that could be nurtured by a small world, and it was also the best treasure that Leijin, a Saint-tier ranker, had managed to obtain after living for 1,500 years. It was not used for battle, but to assist in cultivation, and it was very helpful in breaking through bottlenecks. This kind of cultivation aid treasure was the lifeblood of transcendence. That pile of stones. Dongwu Shuang looked at the pile of pebbles at the side. So it's called Origin Stone. Before this Lesion went into closed-door cultivation, he sold many of his treasures. Even a top-grade saint-ranked weapon that he frequently used was sold in exchange for many treasures. Among which, the most he exchanged for were origin stones. Origin stones were stones that contained the origin of a large world. They contained the most primitive energy of the world. They did not have any elemental attributes, and did not burden the body at all. Thus, one's cultivation speed was extremely fast. Normally, transcendents would not be willing to use origin stones to cultivate. They would only use origin stones when they needed to break through bottlenecks. Lesion went into closed-door cultivation, and even until his death, he still left behind a large pile of origin stones. Latecomer, if you were to enter here by chance like me, I wonder which path you took. I will leave behind my map. Perhaps it would be easier than your path. I have studied it carefully. Climbing down along the walls of the valley, or climbing out. These are the most direct methods, but they are also extremely difficult. You need to avoid the guards. Furthermore, you need to be far away from the abode of gods, because the closer you are, the tighter the guards are. It is impossible to enter the god palace from the front. If you are lucky and patient enough, you might be able to climb out from the bottom of the valley. I once sent a few weak refiner organisms to climb slowly. In total, I sent out 15 weak refiner organisms, but in the end, only one succeeded in climbing to the top of the Black Wind Cliff. When I was on the Black Wind Cliff, I obtained its detailed experience from the refiner organisms. The guards are indeed very tight, and this path of concealment is too difficult. The other path is the way I came in. In the past, I chased after an expert of the Sorcerer God Palace. I chased him into the underground lava river and finally succeeded in killing him. Beside the underground lava river, I found a crack in the rocks. I sensed that this crack was incomparably deep. I felt that this crack was a little strange, so I turned into a stream of water and drilled into the crack. After traveling for more than 1,000 kilometers, I finally reached the crack in the walls of the Black Wind Deity Palace and entered the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Black Wind Deity Palace was built by an extremely powerful senior in the past, Ancestor Black Wind. Ancestor Black Wind was a demigod, and he was the strongest demigod of that era. Until now, no transcendents have been able to kill their way into the Black Wind Deity Palace he left behind and obtain the treasures he left behind. From this, it can be seen how powerful he was. This is an underground hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace. My strength is weak, so I am unable to occupy the entire Black Wind Deity Palace. I can only enter an extremely small area of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The map of the exit, as well as the map of the Black Wind Deity Palace that I have explored, are all attached at the back of this book. ***. Chapter 81. There was a map at the back, as well as a lot of detailed explanations. What, there's a door in the underground palace of the Black Wind Deity Palace that's connected to a large-scale world? Dongwu's Shuang was shocked. The map clearly indicated that there was a hidden door in the underground palace that he was cultivating in, which was connected to a large-scale transcendent world. Previously, when he watched the 1,000 years of experience of the Sea Deity Palace Elder Leijin, Dongwu's Shuang had some understanding of the world that he was living in. The mortal world that he was living in was a very stable and perfect material world. The material world was vast and perfect. In the various parts of the material world, there were some spatial folds, spatial cracks, which gave birth to some imperfect transcendent worlds. These transcendent worlds were divided into large-scale worlds and small-scale worlds. Because they were not perfect enough, these worlds condensed some special treasures. Even the origin core of the entire world would condense into a physical object. Many of the precious items that transcendence needed came from these worlds. For example, in a mortal world, not even a single origin stone could be dug out. What was an origin stone? It was a mineral formed from the energy of the heavens and earth that was used to nurture all living things. In a mortal world with perfect laws, all energy was used perfectly. Transcendents would not be able to find any strange items. However, the laws of those large-scale and small-scale worlds were too simple. Some of the mystical energy would directly condense into physical objects. Countless precious transcendent items would cause transcendence to go crazy over them. Therefore, although these worlds were simple, they were still called transcendent worlds. It was because there were many transcendent items. How rare is a large-scale world? Dongwu Shuang was shocked. This place is actually connected to one. According to Elder Leijin, there were a total of 8 large-scale transcendent worlds that humans had already discovered. Including the one that was connected to the Black Wind Deity Palace, there were a total of 9. Every unexplored large-scale world is a huge treasure. Dongwu Shuang was slightly shocked. No wonder Ancestor Black Wind built a cave palace here. A large-scale world, it was extremely precious. Once more people knew about it, it would definitely be snatched by the peak demigods. Demigods would go in and plunder, obtaining large amounts of transcendent items and resources. A large-scale world is extremely precious. In the appendix, Elder Leijin advised, "You must not expose it. Even good friends might plot against you." Elder Leijin was in seclusion. He still held on to the hope that he could become a demigod. Furthermore, he had lived for 1,500 years and did not have any attachment to the mortal world. The secret of the Black Wind Deity Palace had never been leaked. Dongwu Shuang closed the book with a contemplative look in his eyes. Although large worlds are precious, even demigods would go crazy over them. Dongwu Shuang thought. However, Patriarch Black Wind might have already plundered it. Secondly, it's too far away from me. After all, I'm just a mortal. After that, Dongwu Shuang took a quick look at the other books. Then, with a wave of his hand, he kept all the books. Only 2 strange talismans were left in his palm. They were the control talismans for the 2 transcendent alchemy creatures. With his Do Chi, he easily refined them. The Golden Ape and the Golden Rock immediately said, "Greetings, Master. When I leave the Black Wind Deity Palace, I will bring all of you with me." Dongwu Shuang said, "Master, we've wanted to go out for a long time." The Golden Ape was excited. The Golden Rock was also filled with anticipation. Dongwu Shuang smiled. "Since the 2 of you address each other as monkey and bird, I will address you as well. Master, you can call us whatever you want." The 2 transcendent alchemy creatures were extremely obedient. This was the advantage of alchemy creatures: absolute loyalty. "Oh right, is the Stone of Ocean World in this pool?" Dongwu Shuang looked at the octagonal pool. "Yes," the Golden Rock said. "Back then, Old Master was worried that experts from the Sorcerer God Palace would discover this place. Therefore, he set up an array around the pool. As long as I crush this talisman, the array will explode. The power of the explosion is comparable to an all-out attack from Old Master. It might be able to kill the enemy. Even if it doesn't, the Stone of Ocean World will be completely destroyed. Moreover, there are some dangerous places in the Black Wind Deity Palace where experts from the Sorcerer God Palace will be killed." Dongwu Shuang nodded. The Sorcerer God Palace was an organization formed by the transcendents of the demonic beast clan. Humans and demonic beasts had a racial hatred. Even if the treasures that they had worked hard for were to be left for the fated ones, they would not let the outsiders benefit from it. Phew! Dongwu Shuang squatted down and scooped up some of the spiritual liquid from the pool with both of his hands. He drank a mouthful. A cooling sensation spread throughout his body. Every part of his body, be it his muscles, bones, internal organs, dantian, sea of qi, sea of consciousness, or even his soul, were all nourished. After the spiritual liquid's energy was rapidly absorbed, Dongwu Shuiying's hunger disappeared completely. "I'm not hungry anymore after drinking it." Dongwu Shuiying smiled. "Food is also energy." The Golden Ape laughed. "The spiritual liquid from the Stone of Ocean World is naturally much more nourishing to the body than ordinary food. Old Master drank this spiritual liquid almost every day. The reason why he could become a peak stage saint expert is because of this spiritual liquid." Dongwu Shuiying reached out his hand and fished out a strange jade stone from the pool. This jade stone was an ocean blue in color, with a faint ocean blue glow circulating on its surface. This jade stone had absorbed the essence of the heavens and earth. It was the core of a small world. Looking at it, one could not help but want to take a bite out of it. This desire to eat it was an instinct of life. I feel like eating it just by looking at it. Dongbu Shuang sighed. Don't eat it directly. It's too wasteful. The golden ape reminded him. If you put it in water, it will slowly dissolve. Ordinary water will be converted into spiritual liquid. Old Master had used it to convert spiritual liquid for close to 1,000 years, but only half of it has been dissolved. You need water? Dongbu Shuang frowned. I don't have any water. The spiritual liquid in this pool is enough for Master to use for 30 to 50 years. The golden ape said. After we leave this place, Master, you should prepare more water. Dongbu Shuang nodded. With a wave of his hand, the power of the heavens and earth swept the spiritual liquid into his storage treasure. This storage treasure was an independent space. There was no air or gravity inside. Once an item was moved to a certain place, it would not move again. The spiritual liquid floated in midair within the storage treasure. Following Dongbu Shuang, he walked towards the crack on the wall in the distance. The walls of the entire underground hall were filled with huge cracks. According to the markings on Senior Lejian's map, he came in through this crack. Dongbu Shuang looked at the crack in front of him. This crack was slightly slanted downwards. Dongbu Shuang took a step forward and walked along the crack. His body was bathed in flames, and the flames illuminated the pitch-black crack. As he walked, the crack became narrower and narrower. After walking for over 10 kilometers, the crack became so narrow that he could no longer move forward. Eh? Dongbu Shuang frowned. Senior Lejian transformed into a stream of water to follow the crack all the way to the Black Wind Deity Palace. I am only a mortal now. It is impossible for me to pass through it. If there was no path, he could dig one out from underground? Obviously, such an idea would not work. According to Senior Lejian's description, the surrounding area of the Black Wind Deity Palace is a huge formation. Including the surrounding mountains and plains, they are all within the range of the formation. Just like the bottom of the valley, it is also within the range of the formation. Within the range of the formation, there are a large number of guards patrolling the area. Those guards are very sensitive. If anyone dares to break the ground and dig a tunnel within the range of the formation, they will be discovered immediately. I can only follow the existing tunnel. I cannot destroy it. Dongbu Shuang was slightly troubled. Even Transcendence could not find a way out. What hope did he have? This crack is very narrow. Furthermore, it is over 1,000 kilometers long. Dongbu Shuang shook his head lightly. Only Transcendence can pass through it. Dongbu Shuang could only helplessly return to the dilapidated hall. He was currently a mortal. Even if he had the map of the other smaller areas of the Black Wind Deity Palace, he was still unable to enter. Looking at the empty hall, Yi Zichen, if he wanted to leave, he could only cultivate to the transcendent realm. Monkey birdie. Dongbu Shuang looked at the golden ape and golden rock and laughed. It seems like I, Dongbu Shuang, will only have the two of you as my companions for a long period of time. Chapter 82. There were two ways to become a transcendent. The first way was to transcend the body. The other way was to transcend the Do Qi. Many pseudo-transcendents relied on external forces to transcend their bodies. However, their Do Qi was still that of a legend ranker. Thus, compared to a true transcendent, their strength was very weak. They were only around the top 500 of the Dragon Mountain book. However, there were still many legend rankers who risked their lives to fight for it. Because once they became a pseudo-transcendent, their lifespan would increase exponentially. Facing a powerful legend ranker, they could still escape even if they couldn't defeat them. According to the legends, the second awakening of the primordial bloodline can also allow one to become a transcendent. Dongbu Shuang thought. Unfortunately, it seems to be very difficult. In Lejian's memoirs, there were occasional mentions of the second awakening of the primordial bloodline. The first awakening would only allow one to be a hero among mortals. The second awakening would allow one to have some of the elegance of a true primordial life form. One must know that the peak of the primordial lifeforms were comparable to true gods. However, the primordial bloodline in mortals was too thin. Awakening once was already very rare. To want to awaken a second time. Leijian's memoirs did not mention this in detail. However, Dongbush Shuang could faintly understand that it was extremely difficult. Now that I am trapped in this underground hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace, I have no other choice but to take the most normal path, transcend the Do Qi. Dongbush Shuang thought. Once the quality of the Do Qi changes, after transcending the Do Qi, the transcendent Do Qi would permeate the body from the inside out, causing the body to transcend as well. This transcendent process was the safest. Just like those pseudo-transcendents, when they had no hope of breaking through, they would use external forces to forcefully change their bodies, especially their brains. That was truly a narrow escape. Most of them would die. Only a few would succeed and become a pseudo-transcendent with a long lifespan. Who? Dongbush Shuang sat cross-legged on the smooth floor of the hall. The flames of heaven and earth flowed into his body and into his dantian. Inside his dantian's qi si, a tiny round sphere was spinning. This was the solid dan formed by the solidification of a legend ranker's battle qi. I have to continuously nurture and polish this true dan, and finally produce a qualitative change. The true dan will then produce a strand of transcendent Do Qi, and after that, all the legend Do Qi will be completely transformed into transcendent Do Qi. Dongbush Shuang was also somewhat vexed. Nurture and polish, produce a qualitative change. There was no shortcut to this path. Many legend rankers, like the transformed magical beast Xiang Pengyun, and other monstrous geniuses in the top 100 and top 50 of the Dragon Mountain book, had been stuck at the legend rank for a very long time. They had been constantly nurturing and polishing themselves, until one day, they suddenly broke through. I have reached the realm of myriad creations, and coincidentally, I have comprehended the profound mystery of the fire of myriad creations. Dongbush Shuang thought to himself. My Do Qi is also a fire-type Do Qi. Coupled with the spiritual liquid from the stone of ocean boundary, I should be able to step into the transcendent realm much faster. The probability of a normal legend ranker stepping into the transcendent realm was extremely low. As for those who had grasped the realm of myriad existences, they were all ranked in the top 50 of the Dragon Mountain book. Their probability of stepping into the transcendent realm was much higher. Those who had grasped the realm of myriad existences were mostly over 100 years old. As for Dongbush Shuang, he was only 22 years old. He had plenty of time and was almost certain that he would be able to step into the transcendent realm. But how long would it take? 10 years? 50 years? 100 years? No one could say for sure. There's no use in being anxious. Calm your heart and take it one step at a time. Dongbush Shuang sat cross-legged, absorbing the heaven and earth flame qi and nourishing the true Dan within his body. Time was the most merciless. The snow on the Snowrock Mountain melted and piled up and melted again. The trees and flowers on the mountain peak also withered and flourished. When Dongbush Shuang fell into the Black Wind Abyss, the Snow Eagle Territory's reputation was very big. Within the Tranquil Sun Province, and even outside of the Tranquil Sun Province, there were many discussions about it. But no matter how monstrous a genius was, a dead genius was no longer a genius. Within the Tranquil Sun Province, it was very rare to hear any discussions about Dongbush Shuang. Even within his hometown, Water Rights Town, there were very few discussions about Dongbush Shuang. After all, to them, Dongbush Shuang was just a passerby. But occasionally, when they were drinking, they would sigh. Our Water Rights Town, in any case, had produced an extraordinary person. 3 years after Dongbush Shuang fell into the Black Wind Abyss, a piece of news shook the entire Azure River County, and even the Tranquil Sun Province. Azure River County's proud daughter, Mage Jingqiu, had achieved one with the heavens and stepped into the legend rank. Stepping into the legend rank was not rare. But at the age of 28, she had become a legend rank mage. This was too rare. Mages and knights were different. Knights could comprehend the heavens and earth and break through in a single day. But mages had to slowly accumulate their knowledge, constantly dissecting and researching spell models. Only when they had truly dissected the heavens and earth could they achieve one with the heavens. Only 28 years old? That was indeed monstrous. Eternal Wind Academy. As the spring rain fell, the students of the Eternal Wind Academy were discussing about their female teacher, Mage Jingqiu. Although she could not be compared to Dongwu Shuiying, that kind of monstrous genius that only appears once in 100 years, Jingqiu was still extraordinary. Even in the vast territory of the Dragon Mountain Empire, only one would appear once every 8 to 10 years. Jingqiu. A gentle voice sounded. Jingqiu was currently sitting in a pavilion, drinking tea and looking at the spring rain outside. She was indeed very excited after her breakthrough, but very quickly she thought of that monstrous genius. Teacher? Jingqiu turned her head to look at the source of the voice. She immediately stood up and saw a white-bearded old man holding an umbrella walking over. Jingqiu, have you thought it through? Which transcendent organization are you preparing to join? The white-bearded old man asked. Teacher, you, the principal, and many other legend rankers are all at the Water Taoist faction, Jingqiu said. Of course I will also go to the Water Taoist faction. The Water Taoist faction was an extremely large transcendent organization. The Temple of the Earth God also values you. The conditions they gave you are also very good. Are you not going? The white-bearded old man laughed. The Temple of the Earth God has too many restrictions on my freedom. Jingqiu lightly shook her head. I do not like to fight and kill. I only want to be able to freely and peacefully research spells and the mysteries of nature. The white-bearded old man nodded. Good. Then you should prepare yourself. In a few days I will bring you to the Northern Snowy Plains Water Taoist faction. After going to the Taoist faction, we will go to the infernal world. I have already told you about this before. You should make arrangements for mortal matters. I understand. Jingqiu nodded. At the bottom of the Black Wind Abyss, in the depths of the Black Wind Deity Palace, in a dilapidated hall, a black-clothed youth was currently bending his body. He held a dagger in his hand as he casually cut off his messy hair. With his control over his strength and the power of the world, he was able to sense every single strand of hair very precisely. Very quickly, he restored his hair to a simple and casual short hairstyle. When he was young, he had already gotten used to having short hair. After all, long hair was more troublesome, and he did not have the time to waste on it. Following which, flames appeared out of thin air, incinerating the hair that he had cut off into ashes. It had been 6 years. Dongwu Shuiying's expression did not seem to have changed much. The only difference was that his gaze had become more reserved. At the same time, his entire demeanor had become even more transcendent. After being trapped in the same place for 6 whole years, with only 2 transcendent refiner organisms to chat with him, how boring and depressing were those days. At the start, Dongwu Shuiying had also felt very uncomfortable. Fortunately, he had been training his spear arts crazily since he was young, and had gradually gotten used to such loneliness. Monkey, come, let's spar again. Dongwu Shuiying waved his hand, and the Feishui godly spear appeared in his hand. Master, you only know how to bully me, the golden ape said bitterly. I feel that there is something wrong with my spear arts. Stop grumbling and receive my spear first. Dongwu Shuiying was still pondering over the problem with his spear arts. Without any hesitation, he began to exchange blows with the golden ape. At the same time, he was also pondering over his spear arts. At the start, he did not feel that there was anything wrong with his spear arts. But the more he trained in the hall, the more he felt that there was something wrong with his spear arts. Chapter 83. Boom boom boom. Dongwu Shuiying's Feishui godly spear was like an enraged volcano. Its might was extremely ferocious, causing the golden ape to defend time and time again. Most of the time, it could only rely on its body to defend. The first spurt of energy, the second decline, and the third exhaustion. Dongwu Shuang shook his head. The fire of myriad creations shouldn't be like this. 6 years ago, when he had just comprehended the realm of myriad creations and killed Xiang Pengyun, Dongwu Ying's spear arts were extremely ferocious and violent, bringing with it the tyranny of flames. At that time, he was extremely delighted to execute it. But after 6 years of lonely cultivation, Dongwu Shuang gradually realized the problem with his spear arts. When he attacked, the first strike would be extremely powerful, but after that, he would just repeat the same moves. As long as the opponent got used to it, his moves would be useless. A true spear art shouldn't be like this. Dongwu Shuang suddenly retreated. The golden ape looked at its master, who had already retreated 100 meters away, in confusion. Dongwu Shuang was actually practicing his spear arts by himself. A mortal spear art should be both hard and soft. The combination of yin and yang. Why is it that now that I've reached the realm of myriad creations, I'm still pursuing hard and fierce? Dongwu Shuang started to execute the world's most popular and most basic soul spear art. Every move was simple and natural, and even had a strange soft intent. Only by squatting can I jump higher. Retracting my fist is for the next punch. If I want my spear arts to be even more powerful and ferocious, I have to be even more reserved. Only by combining hard and soft can I become even more ferocious. Dongwu Shuang practiced his spear arts to his heart's content. All these years, he had been pursuing hard and fierce in the profound mystery of fire. At this moment, he was pursuing that kind of soft strength. Just like that, he continued to practice. All the doubts that he had accumulated in his heart towards his spear arts for the past 6 years were now fully displayed. The more he practiced his spear arts like this, the happier he felt. Just like that, he practiced for a full 5 days. Suddenly, the Dongwu Shuang Feishu godly spear spun as if it could envelop the entire world and block everything. But suddenly, a stream of water appeared around the spinning spear. The stream of water spun along with the spear, forming a whirlpool of water that let out a gurgling sound. This was a stream of water that was naturally formed between heaven and earth. The water of the realm of myriad existences. Yes, that's the feeling. How wonderful! Extreme softness, the unending flow of water. What my spear art lacks is this kind of unending flow. What it lacks is extreme yin and extreme softness. Dongwu Ying's eyes were filled with joy. When he saw the whirlpool of water formed by the spinning spear, Dongwu Ying understood that he had comprehended a trace of the profoundness of water. Monkey, little bird, attack together! In his excitement, Dongwu Ying's figure flashed as he dashed over. The golden ape and the golden rock looked at each other, and immediately let out a strange cry as they attacked together. Boom! The golden ape slapped out with its huge palm. The spear in Dongwu Ying's hand rotated and thrust it out. It had already completely deviated from some of the methods of the dark ice spear technique. When the spear thrusted out, it brought along a rotating stream of water. When the golden ape's big palm touched the tip of Dongwu Ying's spear, it felt as if it had slapped an unceasingly rotating top. The tip of the spear was so slippery that it actually slid past the ape's palm and directly stabbed towards the golden ape's chest. Poochie! The spear stabbed into the golden ape's chest. The strange rotating penetrative force caused the golden ape to feel a little uncomfortable. Fortunately, it was a transcendent gold refiner creature, and its material was extremely tough. Stab of the will spear art. Now that Dongwu Shuang had walked on his own path, he naturally broke away from the shackles of the mystic ice spear art. After all, his path of spear art was different from Senior Gu Yuanhan's. At most, he had taken advantage of some of Senior Gu Yuanhan's outstanding points, such as the use of the rotating force. However, when Dongwu Ying combined this rotating force with the profound mysteries of the water of myriad creations, its power increased exponentially. What technique is that? The golden rock was also puzzled as it flapped its wings over. Dongbush Shuang spun his spear. It was as if a huge whirlpool had appeared between the heavens and earth. When the golden rock swatted over, it felt as if the force was diverted to the side. Ha! Dongbush Shuang was extremely delighted. Little bird monkey, the two of you better be careful now. Dongbush Ying's spear danced in the air, flashing and interweaving between the two of them. If the previous Dongbush Shuang was extremely ferocious, then the current Dongbush Shuang was like a slippery loach. When he used his spear art to defend, it made it hard for the enemy to unleash their full strength. When he attacked, although his strength was not very strong, it was extremely unpredictable, making it hard for the enemy to grasp the changes in his strength. Furthermore, the penetrative force of the rotation was also extremely sinister. Pun. Occasionally, Dongbush Ying's spear would suddenly burst forth with a ferocious might. Flames would naturally appear on the spear and fiercely lash out at the enemy. One was gentle while the other was ferocious, causing the enemy to feel like vomiting blood. This is more like it. This is what I want. While Dongbush Shuang was fighting, his will spear art was gradually changing. Every move was continuous, causing the ferocious attacks of the fire of myriad creations to become even more threatening. Even the profound mysteries of fire was undergoing a transformation. Originally, the flames were only ferocious and had the power to burn and destroy everything. But now, there was an additional trace of restraint, causing the ferocious attacks to be able to flow endlessly. There are similarities between fire and water, Izichin said. Dongbush Ying's profound mysteries of the fire of myriad creations was improving. Similarly, the water of myriad creations had also absorbed some of the essence of the profound mysteries of fire. It was no longer purely gentle, but instead, there was a faint hint of ferociousness within it. Gentle as the body, ferociousness as the thread, it could flow endlessly. This was the current Dongbush Ying's fire of myriad creations. Fierce as the body, gentle as the thread, it could flow endlessly. This was the current fire of myriad creations. Awesome! Awesome! Dongbush Ying felt exceptionally exhilarated as he executed his spear art. Previously, he would always feel as though he was bursting with energy, then weakening and then being exhausted. After all, it was very tiring to be constantly using the fire of myriad creations. But now, he was not tired at all. His spear art was endless. Even though he had comprehended the profound mysteries of the fire of myriad creations, he still had to slowly grind and nurture his battle chi. In the main hall, Dongbush Ying was sitting cross-legged as he absorbed the power of the flames in the heavens and the earth to gradually polish the round solid core in his body. Although he had been polishing and nurturing it for 6 years, he had yet to make a breakthrough. But today, when Dongbush Ying guided the fire battle chi in his body, he naturally used the profound mysteries of the fire of myriad creations that he had already made a breakthrough in. When his battle chi was being nurtured and polished, it faintly carried a hint of gentleness. It could be fiercely polished or gently caressed. 1 hour, 2 hours. That round solid core gradually changed. For the past 6 years, he had been drinking the spiritual liquid dissolved by the stone of the ocean boundary. The spiritual liquid had also nourished his body and the battle chi's solid core in his Dantian sea of chi. Now, the battle chi nourishment had brought about a change in the profound mysteries of the fire of myriad creations. It was obviously helpful in nurturing and polishing his solid core. Buzz! The surface of the round solid core gradually lit up, as though it had been reborn. Traces of light appeared on the surface of the solid core. A trace of brilliance gradually appeared on the surface of the solid core. This brilliance gradually gathered and gradually formed a fog. This fog carried a faint red flame. However, this fog contained an incredible transcendent power. Although it seemed thin, any trace of it could easily cut through boulders and swords. Even weaker alchemy weapons would not be able to withstand its sharpness. Transcendent battle chi? Dongbush Ying was instantly overjoyed. Chapter 84. Surprise, it came so suddenly. Dongbu Shuang was so excited that his head started to heat up and his blood started to boil. He had been trapped in the black wind abyss for 6 whole years and had always been looking forward to becoming a transcendent. However, in his heart, Dongbu Shuang was prepared to spend 20 or even 50 years to become a transcendent. But the truth was, he had become a transcendent in just 6 years. I've become a transcendent, I can go back. I can go home. Dongbu Shuiying's mind was filled with scenes of many people. The outside world, his brother Qingshi, his parents, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong, the servants and soldiers in the castle, the mage by Yuanji, even Xian from the Dragon Mountain Manor and Jingqiu. After being alone for so long, Dongbu Shuang longed for the outside world. Once I become a transcendent, I can easily save my parents. Dongbu Shuang was so excited that tears started to form in his eyes. He then grinned and took a deep breath. Calm down, calm down. Rice needs to be eaten one bite at a time. Let's first completely transform my Do Qi into a transcendent Do Qi. Within the Dantian's Qi Sea, the surface of the round Dantian that was emitting rays of light was constantly glowing and condensing into more and more mist. This faint red flame mist was becoming more and more dense. The first strand of transcendent Do Qi was the most difficult to form, and the process would become faster and faster. A large amount of fiery red mist quickly pervaded the entire Dantian's Qi Sea. That round lump of solid Dan gradually began to crack. It was formed from the solidification of legend-rank Do Qi. As it gradually cracked, the legend-rank Do Qi was being swallowed by the transcendent Do Qi, transforming it into transcendent Do Qi. This process lasted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Within the Dantian's Qi Sea, not a single strand of legend-level Do Qi was left. All that was left was this faint red flame mist. The power of the heaven and earth continuously flowed into his body. The transcendent Do Qi was directly absorbed, and the power of the heaven and earth was continuously transformed into transcendent Do Qi. Until the Dantian's Qi Sea was filled to the brim, Dongbu Shuang immediately stopped. Now, my Do Qi has already transcended. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes were filled with anticipation. Now it's time for my body to transcend. His traces of transcendent Do Qi began to seep into his bones, skin, and muscles. In fact, when he was still a mortal, he would also use Do Qi to improve his body, so Dongbu Shuiying was very familiar with it. However, the changes caused by transcendent Do Qi were more obvious and exaggerated. His skin and muscles were absorbing the transcendent battle Qi and were quietly changing, turning into transcendence. His skin and fascia had also become tougher and more elastic, and there was even a qualitative change inside. Gubiga. The bone marrow within the bones also began to change, and the blood produced by the bone marrow naturally continuously evolved. The blood flowed through the entire body, through the internal organs, and even through the brain, causing the weaker internal organs and the weakest brain to silently change. The infiltration of his own extraordinary Qi was the safest way to transform the body. Everything was natural. For those pseudo-transcendent beings who borrowed external forces to forcefully modify their bodies, they were gambling with their lives. Even betting on this chance would require them to pay a hefty price. To them, it was worth it. After all, many legend rankers were already over 100 years old, and were nearing the end of their lifespans. Even if they didn't risk it, they would still die of old age. So, it was better to risk it all. If they succeeded, their lifespan would immediately increase exponentially. My muscles, bones, skin, and muscles have all transcended. Now, it's my internal organs and brain. Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. After going through the influence of the blood, his internal organs and brain had already undergone some transformations. At this moment, it was much easier for him to withstand the transcendent Do Qi. Under the direct infiltration of the transcendent Do Qi, his internal organs and brain were rapidly being absorbed and transformed. The minute substances produced by his internal organs flowed through his brain, causing his brain to continue transforming. After more than 2 hours, his internal organs had completely transformed. At this moment, Dongbui Shui Ying's transcendent Do-Chi finally seeped into his brain. Currently, his brain had already undergone several small transformations, and it was very safe for it to withstand the transcendent Do-Chi. Dongbui Shuiying could feel his brain rumbling. During the transformation of his brain was burning hot, and even his ears were ringing. However, he was still able to maintain his calm. Gradually, the rumbling and burning hot feeling subsided, and what replaced it was an unprecedented clarity in his mind. Even his thinking speed had greatly increased. Furthermore, his eyes, nose, and ears had undergone some astonishing changes. His vision had greatly improved, and his vision was now able to clearly see a small earthworm 100 miles away. It was inconceivable. This was what it meant to be a transcendent. What a strange feeling. Dongbui Shuiying looked at his surroundings. The originally desolate hall had suddenly become filled with colors, and the world had become incomparably beautiful. Transcendent. Dongbui Shuiying stretched out his hand, and a dagger appeared in his hand. He then stabbed it towards his arm. Hua! The dagger sliced through his arm, but his arm was like air, completely unharmed. It was as though the two of them were in different worlds. The dagger had clearly sliced through his arm, yet his arm was not affected in the slightest. Mortal substances and transcendent substances are completely different now. Dongbui Shuiying exclaimed, "My body has completely transcended. Only transcendent substances are able to harm my body." That was why, no matter how many mortals there were, it was meaningless against transcendence. It was because they were unable to harm transcendence. Even the weakest pseudo-transcendents, like the top 50 legend rankers in the Dragon Mountain book, would need to use a weapon forged from a transcendent material. Or the edge of the weapon would be covered with a layer of transcendent material. Only then would they be able to harm, or even kill a pseudo-transcendent. However, if a pseudo-transcendent was focused on escaping, it would be very hard to kill them. My body should be able to transform. Dongbui Shuiying's body started to transform. Goo, his body instantly turned soft, and very quickly it turned into a pool of liquid. Following which, the liquid condensed into a flowing liquid sphere. Ah, Master! The Golden Ape and Golden Rock, who were far away, were shocked to discover that their master had turned into a liquid sphere. Master has become a transcendent? The liquid sphere was constantly changing. Sometimes it would turn into a cube, sometimes it would turn into a blade, sometimes it would turn into a spear. After which, it would completely disintegrate into countless particles. These countless particles were the most minute state that a transcendent body could disintegrate into. Finally, he returned to his original human form. A transcendent body is truly mystical. Dongbui Shuiying was extremely shocked. However, in a life and death battle, it was still better to maintain his human form. His other forms were much weaker in terms of defense and combat power. Flight. Dongbui Shuiying's body instantly turned into a flame. A flame that looked like a shooting star. In an instant, it circled around the hall at high speed. Following which, it started to fly even more ferociously. Circle after circle, like a ray of light, countless flame-like halos appeared in the hall. After flying to its heart's content for a while, the flame descended and turned into Dongbui Shuiying. Again, turned into water. Dongbui Shuiying's body instantly turned into a stream of water. The stream of water continued to fly at high speed in the hall. It even turned into an S shape and flew freely for a while before stopping. How satisfying! Dongbui Shuiying revealed a joyful expression. Transcendence could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground by borrowing the power of heaven and earth. If one was able to step into the transcendent realm with only the realm of the unity of heaven and man, the transcendent body would turn into countless particles and attach themselves to the power of heaven and earth. With the help of the power of heaven and earth, the particles would be able to fly at high speed. Therefore, the flying speed of transcendence was extremely shocking. Flying in the air was the easiest. Traveling underground and in places like seawater would be obstructed, and the speed would be much slower. And if one reached the realm of myriad creations, one's body particles could be attached to the flames of heaven and earth, or the water of heaven and earth, and their speed would be even faster and more powerful. Moreover, different profound mysteries of all creations brought about different flying effects. For example, mastering the profound mysteries of the earth and attaching his power to the power of the earth would allow him to travel through the earth at an extremely fast speed. Attached to the flow of water, it could fly extremely fast in the sea and rivers. Experts who had mastered other profound mysteries would fly much slower. Some who had mastered the profound mysteries of space could even teleport. Of course, it was extremely difficult to master the profound mysteries of space. After landing, Dongwu Shuang felt extremely carefree. The feeling of flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground is truly exhilarating. I feel free and unrestrained. Amen. Previously, I was a mortal and was unable to look at some of the places in the Black Wind Deity Palace recorded by Senior Leijun. Now I should go take a look and broaden my horizons. After that, it's time to go home. Dongwu Shuang was filled with joy. When Dongwu Shuang landed on the ground, the golden ape and golden rock came over and said in unison, "Congratulations, Master, for becoming a transcendent." Chapter 85. Haha, it's just that my clothes are a little troublesome when I fly. Dongwu Shuang was in a good mood. After flying, his clothes were instantly kept into his storage bracelet. The storage bracelet left behind by Senior Leijun was also a transcendent saint low-grade item. As a transcendent item, it could also turn into particles. However, particle forms were not suitable for battle. Without any armor or any other protective items, it would be easy for one to suffer when encountering an opponent of the same level. Human form was the strongest form in battle. Master, when you join a transcendent organization, you will be bestowed with some basic transcendent items, the golden ape said. And Dongwu Shuang nodded his head. Over the past 6 years, he had interacted with these two transcendent refiner organisms and talked about many things regarding transcendence. For example, some transcendent organizations, Sorcerer God Palace, Demonic Faction, Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern. Dongwu Shuang had some understanding of them. Of course, the monkey and bird were only refiner organisms, so their understanding was only on the surface. Let's go and take a look at the world entrance. Dongwu Shuang smiled. The world entrance is over there. The golden ape and the golden rock helped to guide the way. Because of the map, Dongwu Shuang already knew the location of the world entrance. On a seemingly ordinary crystal wall in the hall, Dongwu Shuang stretched out his right hand. Instantly, a blazing red aura flew out from his palm and enveloped the wall. Following that, the wall changed, revealing an ancient door that was 100 meters tall. At the same time, a ripple was transmitted from the door, directly into Dongwu Shuang's mind. Black Wind. On the other side of this door is a large-scale transcendent world. Those who have not reached the Saint Realm are not allowed to enter. The ripple transmitted a map and some notes. The map was the world behind this door. As expected of a large-scale world, there are actually demigods. Dongwu Shuang was a little fearful after understanding the annotations on the map. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, before the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace died, there was a demigod in the large-scale world. The master of the Black Wind Deity Palace was too powerful back then, and that demigod was so frightened that he went into hiding. As for now, that demigod must have died of old age, but it was likely that another demigod would be born. This kind of world was extremely dangerous, but it was also an astonishing treasure trove. Right now, my strength is too weak. If I enter, I'll just be sending myself to death. Dongwu Shuang shook his head. After saying that, he turned around and left. In this underground hall, there was another main door, but it required extraordinary power to open. Rumble! Dongwu Shuang's transcendent doqi seeped into the door and activated the mechanism. Instantly, a huge door appeared on the smooth crystal wall. The door rose with a rumble, revealing a series of green stairs behind it. Back then, Old Master had only swept through a small area around this area. the golden ape said helplessly. He only swept through some of the more remote areas near this underground hall. The truly important areas are guarded by protectors. There's no way to advance any further. Senior Leijin, what's your harvest after sweeping through this place? Dongbu Shuang asked. These are all items that the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace casually placed here. However, to Old Master, it can be considered as a huge profit, the ape said. The layout of the deity palace was extremely complicated. Many places were obviously used by the master of the deity palace for his experiments. Of course, some of the valuable items were gone. It was likely that Elder Leijin had taken them away. There's no way to advance any further, the golden ape said. It's because of these two. Dongbu Shuang pointed to the front. There were two statues that looked like lions on both sides of the wide passageway. Just the two of them. The golden rock rarely spoke. Its eyes were cold and calm. Both of them are at the peak of the saint rank. Old Master was unable to break through their obstruction. Peak of the saint rank? Dongbu Shuang was speechless. How extravagant. Refiner organisms were different from humans. Humans would die of old age. However, refiner organisms were truly immortal. Therefore, refiner organisms could be passed down to their descendants. Take Leijin for example. As an elder of the Sea Deity Palace and a peak of the saint rank expert, he only left behind two Sky Realm initial phase refiner organisms. Of course, this was because Leijin had sold off many of his treasures for his closed-door cultivation. However, at Leijin's level, it was very difficult to obtain a refiner organism with the strength of a saint rank. Two peak of the saint rank refiner organisms were casually placed in the palace? Dongbu Shuang recalled the black-armored soldier that he had killed before. That black-armored soldier was condensed from black fog and wasn't a refiner organism. Old Master once said that the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace was an extremely terrifying demigod mage. Even until now, no transcendents have been able to break through the array of the Black Wind Deity Palace, the golden ape said. The difficulty of breaking through this array is much harder than sweeping through a large-scale transcendent world. These two refiner organisms are merely the tip of the iceberg of the entire Black Wind Deity Palace's defensive power, the golden rock said. Master, do you see that? There's a faint arc there? I know. Senior Leijin mentioned it before. Dongbu Shuang nodded his head. There were many patterns on the ground. There was indeed a large arc around the corridor. This arc might have been left behind by the Black Wind Deity Palace's master for some of his assistants in the past. It was to warn them not to step into this arc. Once they did, they would immediately be attacked. Let's give it a try. Dongbu Shuang flipped his hand and took out a shuttle-shaped dart. He flicked his wrist. South. The dart was enveloped in flame chi and instantly turned into a flaming meteor as it flew towards one of the lion beast sculptures. The lion beast sculpture suddenly opened its eyes. Shio! Shio! Two scarlet rays of light shot out from its eyes and landed on the silver coin at the same time. The silver coin instantly turned into ashes with a chi sound. Dongbu Shuang was secretly speechless. The lion beast sculpture coldly looked at Dongbu Shuang before closing its eyes. There wasn't a trace of life coming from it. It was just like an ordinary sculpture. Fortunately, it is extremely loyal to the Deity Palace's master's orders. It will not attack any life forms outside the arc. Dongbu Shuang revealed a smile. All right, I've seen everything. Monkey, little bird, let's go. It's time for us to leave. He was only trying to understand it a little. With his current strength, forget about conquering this deity palace, he didn't even have the qualifications to enter a large-scale transcendent world. After all, he had just stepped into the transcendent realm. He walked to one of the cracks on the wall of the underground hall. It's time to go home. Dongbu Shuang waved his hand. The golden ape and golden rock beside him didn't resist at all. They were directly swept up by the heaven and earth energy and kept into his storage bracelet. Storage treasures were unable to store life forms. However, corpses and refiner organisms could be stored. Let's go! Who? In an instant, Dongbu Shuang turned into a ray of flame and flew into the crack. As he went deeper into the crack became narrower and narrower. Dongbu Shuiying's flying speed was extremely fast. As the crack became narrower and narrower, it connected with some of the existing cracks underground, forming a fork. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for a single attack to travel over 1,000 li. Fortunately, Dongbu Shuiying had memorized the map left behind by Raisin. Hence, the fork did not affect him at all. As he flew, there were some places that were extremely narrow. The flame pierced through them. In just the time taken to brew a cup of tea. Hoo hoo hoo! The scorching lava river flowed slowly. The cracks on the mountain rocks were also blocked by lava. Shio! A ray of flame shot out from the blocked lava river and turned into a black-robed young man in the air above the lava river. Lava river! Dongbu Shuiying looked at the lava river in front of him and revealed a look of joy. I'm out! In the time taken to brew a cup of tea, they traveled over 1,000 li and arrived at the lava river. This is the Wuya volcano. Dongbu Shuiying turned into a stream of water. The stream of water flew at high speed. Although its speed was slower than the flame, it was relatively more stealthy. In a few breaths' time, a stream of water flew out from the crater of the volcano and into the clouds. This volcano was only 1,200 li away from Water Wright's town's Snowrock Mountain. It was one of the more famous volcanoes in Azure River County called the Wuya volcano. Dongbu Shuiying was very familiar with it. In the dark night, a bright moon hung in the sky. A stream of water flew through the clouds at high speed. Very quickly it flew over 1,200 li hu. The stream of water turned into a black-robed young man. The black-robed young man descended slowly and passed through the clouds. He looked down at the tall mountain that he grew up on and the familiar castle on top of it. I'm back. A smile appeared on Dongbu Shuiying's face. Chapter 86. Looking downwards, Shuiying's emotions surged. He could not control himself. He could clearly see the main building of Snow Rock Castle. His parents weren't here, and he wasn't here either. Only his younger brother and his personal servants lived in the main building. Currently, there was only one room in the main building that was still lit. That room was the study room that Dongbu Shuiying used to use. It was already late at night, and the servants wouldn't dare to stay in the study room. Whoosh! Dongbu Shuiying's figure flashed and disappeared in midair. Then, he silently appeared in the corridor outside the study room. He stood in the corridor and looked inside through the window. In the study room, there was a handsome young man sitting there. There was a large amount of paper on the table, and on the paper, there were spell models. Dongbu Shuiying stood outside the window and looked at him. Qingshi, you've grown taller and more mature. Dongbu Shuiying smiled and looked at him. He's still studying spells at this late hour. This kid has never been so hardworking in the past. The handsome young man who was leaning on the desk and pondering carefully raised his head as if he sensed something. Through the transparent window, he saw a figure outside. He was instantly stunned. He rubbed his eyes and widened his eyes to take a closer look. Who? Instantly, he stood up and rushed to the door of the study room. He opened the door and looked at the young man in black. Brother, is that you? Am I hallucinating? Qingshi couldn't believe it. Although he had been saying that his brother, Dongbu Shuiying, would definitely return, his rationality told him that there was more than a 90% chance that his brother had fallen into the black wind abyss and died. I'm back. Why? Do you want me to die? Dongbu Shuiying smiled. Qingshi reached out and hugged Dongbu Shuiying. His tears instantly soaked his clothes. Dongbu Shuiying touched Qingshi's head. Suddenly, he was stunned. In the past, when he touched his brother's head, he was much shorter than him. But now, he was almost as tall as him. But he's still so handsome. With this face, he won't have to worry about food and clothing. Dongbu Shuiying, who was in a good mood, mumbled to himself. I'll tell Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. Qingshi let go of Dongbu Shuiying. He recalled something and said, all these years, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong have been thinking about you. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. I'll go with you. Late at night. In the dining hall of Snowrock Castle, it was bustling with noise and excitement. Even the chefs of the castle had woken up overnight to prepare delicious food. They weren't impatient at all. Instead, they were excited because they had heard that the great lord of Snowrock Castle, Lord Dongwu, had returned. The future of Snowrock Castle would definitely be better. Pass down my order. All the soldiers and servants in the castle will have their wages increased tenfold this month. Ying shouted excitedly in the dining hall. Thank you, young master. I will pass on the order. The maid was excited. At the dining hall's dining table, wine and snacks were placed on the table. As for the delicacies, they were still being prepared. The entire Snowrock Castle was lit up. Even the sleeping soldiers and servants woke up. Many of them woke up with sleepy eyes. Just as they were about to leave the room, they heard their companions say, "Ergo, why are you still in a daze? The Lord is back. Our Lord is back." What Lord is back? It's young Master Snow Eagle. What? Countless soldiers and servants were in an uproar. Their Snowrock Castle's most amazing lord was back. Especially when they heard that their wages would be increased tenfold this month. In the dining hall, Dongwu, Zhongling, Tong San and Qingshi were all there. Look at how excited you are. Dongwu laughed. Oh right, what's going on? Why are the servants calling you young master? I've been gone for 6 years. You should have inherited the position of lord by now. At Dongwu Ying's level of power, the position of lord was indeed nothing. Snow Eagle. Zongling's face was also full of smiles. You don't know, when you fell into the Black Wind Abyss, many people in the castle wanted Qingshi to inherit the position of lord. But Qingshi refused no matter what. He even said that he would wait for you. Even if it was 50 years or 100 years, he would wait until he died. As long as he is alive, the position of lord will always be empty. I knew it, my brother would definitely come back. See, isn't he back now? Qingshi said proudly. Qingshi's spirit is different. It's been 6 years, but I've never seen you beaming with joy. Tong San also laughed. Uncle Tong, don't talk about me. Look at you, you're smiling so much that your mouth is about to fall off. Qingshi teased. I'm happy today, ha ha ha. Tong San laughed. Dongwu watched with a smile. He could feel the joy and excitement of these close relatives in front of him. Although Uncle Tong and Uncle Zong were not related to him by blood, they treated him like a nephew. That's right, Snow Eagle, how did you come up from the Black Wind Abyss? Zongling asked. When I fell down, I borrowed the wings of Xiang Pengyun's demonic beast corpse and luckily didn't fall to my death. After that, I spent 6 years to climb up from the bottom of the valley. Dongwu said the words that he had long prepared. The news of him escaping from another secret crack must not be leaked. If it was leaked, there would probably be experts that would immediately go in and wipe out that large-scale world. Although Dongwu was not an evil person, he was not selfless to this extent. 6 years to climb up? Tong San was shocked. In the depths of the Black Wind Abyss, there is a transcendent expert's cave palace. There are many guards around it, and it is very dangerous. Dongwu said simply. Almost all transcendents knew about the Black Wind Deity Palace, so there was no need to keep it a secret. My strength is too weak, and I don't dare to go near those guards. I can only hide as far away as possible. To climb out from the bottom of the valley, I had to climb slowly and carefully, without alarming any of the guards. If they were alarmed, then it would be over. I was lucky enough to become a transcendent, so I carefully climbed out. This was the speech that he had long prepared. In any case, no one could confront him. You don't believe me? Go down and try it yourself. Lucky enough to become a transcendent? Zongling, Tongsan, and Qingshi only had these words in their minds. Snow Eagle, you've become a transcendent? Zongling was the first to react. Dongwu nodded. There was no need to hide it, because he would soon join a transcendent organization and go to the infernal world. Water Rights Town, Dragon Mountain Manor. Although there was a glimmer of light in the sky, the moon was still hanging high in the sky. The entire Water Rights town was very quiet. Most of the people were sleeping, and only a few peddlers had woken up early to prepare. At this time, Water Rights town's Manor Lord Cian was still sleeping soundly. Manor Lord, Manor Lord! The white-haired old man Yutu's eyes were still wet, but his face was flushed with excitement as he knocked on the door. Creak! The door opened. Manor Lord Cian's eyes were still a little blurry. Wearing slippers, he glanced at the people outside and said with dissatisfaction, "You two, why are you shouting so early? Look, the sky isn't even bright yet. There's a big matter, a big matter," Yutu said. "What's more important than my sleep? Tell me," Manor Lord Cian said. Other than the incident with Dongbush Shuang that kept him busy for a while, his days afterwards were very ordinary. "It's Dongbush Shuang," Yutu said. "Dongbush Shuang is back." Manor Lord Cian blinked twice, then widened his eyes. "Dongbush Shuang is back? Is the news correct?" "Yes, it's definitely correct. The entire Snow Rock Castle has been cheering and bustling the entire night. All the soldiers' and servants' wages have been increased by 10 times this month," Yutu said. Many servants saw Dongbush Shuang eating and chatting with his younger brother in the dining hall. They chatted for half the night. "My God, he fell into the Black Wind Abyss and still came out alive," Manor Lord Cian said in disbelief. Really. He was very pained at that time. He felt that it was a pity for a dazzling character to suddenly fall. But 6 years later, this Dongbush Shuang actually came back. "Shouldn't we report this news to the higher-ups?" Yutu reminded. "Yes, report it." Manor Lord Cian immediately sobered up and ordered, "I'll send the news now. Immediately arrange for carriages and horses. In a while, I will immediately set off for Snow Rock Castle. Send people to the city gates in advance and open the gates as soon as possible." It was still too early, it wasn't time to open the gates yet. "Yes," Yutu said. Dragon Mountain Manor had their own special communication method. Manor Lord Cian quickly reported the news to his superiors. He couldn't be bothered to care about how much of a commotion this news would cause. He didn't even have time to eat. After casually eating a few mouthfuls of snacks, he immediately rode his horse and led his group of subordinates straight towards Snow Rock Castle. Chapter 87. Early in the morning, the air was fresh. As Dongbush Shuang walked out of the castle's main gate, the soldiers at the gate excitedly puffed out their chests. "Lord!" Looking at these soldiers, he found some familiar faces. Casually walking on the peak of Snow Rock Mountain, he looked down at the beautiful scenery of the territory, the villages, and the flowing river. Shuang took a deep breath, inhaling fresh air. The familiar smell of the air was much fresher than the air in the underground Great Hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace. There was also the smell of flowers and grass, as well as some earthy smell. "His Lordship!" a voice rang out. Dongbush Shuang turned his head and saw Bai Yuanji walking towards him. "Great Mage!" Dongbush Shuang was quite respectful towards his brother's teacher. "In front of Lord, I don't dare to call myself Great Mage," Bai Yuanji replied. He did not know that Dongbush Shuang had become a transcendent, but killing Xiang Pengyun was enough for him to lower his position in front of Dongbush Shuang. "If Lord thinks highly of this old man, you can call me Great Mage Bai." Dongbush Shuang nodded slightly. "When I heard that Lord had returned last night, I didn't dare to disturb you." Bai Yuanji smiled. "Congratulations, Lord, for returning safely from the Black Wind Abyss. The Black Wind Abyss is extremely dangerous. Throughout the ages, there has never been a legend ranker who managed to come out alive. Lord, you are the first." "Not really," Dongbush Shuang replied. He was a transcendent. Wanting to escape from the abyss with the strength of a legend ranker was too difficult. "Right, how are Jirong and Yu?" Dongbush Shuang asked. Although he had chatted with his brother for a long time last night, Jirong was his brother's ex-girlfriend, so he did not ask about it. Lord, you have just returned and do not know. Wizard Bai Yuanji sighed. That Jirong, even I did not expect her to be a believer of the evil god. I only found out about it when Tower Lord Xian came to my place to investigate. Followers of the evil god? Dongbua Shuang nodded. The Dragon Mountain Manor's deduction was indeed very accurate. As for Kong Yu, just half a year after Lord fell into the Black Wind Abyss, she followed Mage Sichin to the Azure River County. Great Master Bai Yuanji said. He was also paying close attention to Dongbua Shui Ying's expression. He was also an experienced man. He had long understood the complicated relationship between Yu Sichin and Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang laughed. Impressive. Now, he viewed these matters more detachedly. He did not have much hatred towards Kong Yu, but he felt that this girl was scheming enough. Now, she could be considered to have climbed into the sea family. Clack! 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 The earth trembled faintly. Dongbua Shuang turned his head and saw a group of cavalry galloping on the mountain path in the distance. The one leading the group was none other than Manor Lord Xian. It's Manor Lord Xian, Bai Yuanji said. Since you've arrived here so early, I'm afraid that Manor Lord Xian set off from Water Rights Town before the sun rose. You must have some important matters to attend to, so I won't be a hindrance. With that, Bai Yuanji smiled and left. From afar, Manor Lord Xian saw Dongbua Shuang standing at the edge of the mountain. Without slowing down, he rode his horse towards Dongbua Shuang. Nay, nay! The horse's hooves raised and stopped. Manor Lord Xian leapt down and casually left the horse behind, leaving it to his subordinates to look after it. Lord Dongbua. Xian's face was full of joy. When I heard that Lord had returned, I couldn't believe it. This is truly a miracle, a miracle. I have already reported the news. I believe that it won't be long before a transcendent will come and lead Lord into a transcendent force. Those who were ranked in the top 3,000 of the Dragon Mountain book, as well as those who were deemed worthy of training, would normally be led into a transcendent force for training. Even if they were nurtured, the number of people who could step into the transcendent realm was still pitifully small. Thus, people like Xi Lianghong, Xiang Pengyun and the others had entered a transcendent force before, but they still couldn't break through and step into the transcendent realm. Oh? Dongbua Shuang frowned. I want to make a trip to the Eastfield province to bring my parents back. You said that a transcendent will be coming. When do you estimate they will arrive? Lord Dongbua, please don't. It's better for you to stay in Snowrock Castle. My Dragon Mountain book spreads news very quickly, and the transcendents travel very quickly as well. I estimate that within 1 or 2 days, a transcendent will arrive. Xian said. What a joke! If a transcendent expert came to lead a legend ranker, how could he let the transcendent expert make a wasted trip? Dongbua Shuang nodded slightly. 1 or 2 days? That's enough. I will set off for the Eastfield province, Bellfeather County. I will definitely be back before nightfall. You! Xian was somewhat stunned. You will be back before nightfall? 2 provinces, If one were to slowly travel along the roads on land, it would be a total of hundreds of thousands of miles. Return before nightfall? From here to the Eastfield province, Bellfeather County, the straight line distance is only 80,000 miles. Dongbua Shuang said. A round trip is a total of 160,000 miles. Even with a top-notch refiner flying ship, if one were to fly with all their might, they would only be able to travel 5,000 miles in 2 hours. In a day of 24 hours, we would only be able to fly 60,000 miles. There is still a long way to go. Manor Lord Xian was still somewhat puzzled. No, I mean I will fly there myself. Dongbua Shuang laughed. Manor Lord Xian was stunned. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Dongbua Shuang. Lord Dongbua, you have already, Hong! A layer of flame-like doqi immediately appeared on the surface of Dongbua Shuang's body. The invisible pressure made Manor Lord Xian feel suffocated. Following that, Dongbua Shuang retracted the doqi on the surface of his body. You believe me now? Dongbua Shuang looked at him. I believe you. Manor Lord Xian's mind was still in a daze. Dongbu Shuang was only 28 years old and he had already become a transcendent? Such a monster. In the past 1,000 years, only the eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qibai could match up to him. Who was Qiu Qibai? He was the #1 expert in the entire Tranquil Sun province. Many powers thought highly of him and believed that in the future, Qiu Qibai would become the #1 expert under the heavens. For example, the protectors of the Black Wind Deity Palace also thought highly of Qiu Qibai. They believed that Qiu Qibai had hopes of breaking through the array. Lord Dongbua, Lord Dongbua. Manor Lord Xian was slightly nervous. He was just a lowly person in charge of a remote Dragon Mountain manor. What was he worth in front of a transcendent? For example, the Sea clan and the Mo Yang clan, Manor Lord Xian was a deterrent. But in front of a true transcendent, those clans would tremble in fear. From this, one could see the difference in status between the two parties. We've known each other since I was 15 years old. Dongbua Shuang smiled. No need to be so polite. Good, good. Manor Lord Xian was a little flustered. A transcendent had appeared within his jurisdiction. This was something that only a few of the lowly people in charge of the world would encounter. This was because legend rankers would usually be recruited into transcendent organizations. How could a transcendent suddenly appear and require their Dragon Mountain manor to pass on a message? I'll immediately pass on the message. This matter is too big, Manor Lord Xian said. Lord Dongbua, I believe that the 6 big transcendent organizations, even the demonic faction and sorcerer palace will be involved. As he spoke, Manor Lord Xian flipped his hand and a square crystal card appeared. Manor Lord Xian began to write some words on the crystal card. Dongbua Shuang watched on. This was the lowest grade communication tool. It should be able to pass on the message to the Azure River County's Dragon Mountain Manor. For transcendent experts, their communication crystal cards could be used to transmit messages directly through their consciousness. The range of transmission could even cover the entire world. The news has been spread! Manor Lord Xian's fingers trembled as he pressed on the transmission button. Finally, he raised his head and looked at Dongbua Shuang. Sorry for the trouble, Dongbua Shuang said. This has always been my duty. Manor Lord Xian grinned. It is my honor. Lord Dongbua, your matter is too big. It will definitely be reported to the higher-ups of the transcendent organizations. I'm afraid that it will take a long time. The Bloodshed Tavern and the Temple of the Earth God will probably arrive in 1 or 2 days. As you are a newly advanced transcendent, there will be many transcendent organizations coming to invite you. Dongbua Shuang lightly nodded. This was within his expectations. After chatting with Monkey and Little Bird, he had some understanding of the transcendent organizations in the world. That was why he took the initiative to reveal the news of him becoming a transcendent to Manor Lord Xian, allowing him to spread the news. This was so that the various organizations would take the initiative to invite him. After all, on the path of cultivation, external resources were also very important. With competition from various organizations, he would have a better chance of choosing a transcendent organization. I'll first make a trip to the Eastfield Province's Mo Yang clan. I'll wait for you transcendents when I return, Dongbua Shuang said. With a whoosh, he transformed into a flame and soared into the sky. In an instant, he disappeared from Manor Lord Xian's vision. Manor Lord Xian raised his head in a daze. He muttered, Our Water Rights Town also produced a transcendent? Who? Within the clouds, he transformed into a flaming meteor, flying at high speed. He set off in the early morning. 4 hours later, before noon, Dongbua Shuang had already flown to the easternmost part of Eastfield Province's Bellfeather County, near the sea, Thunder Tide shore. Mother. The flames in the sky condensed into a black-robed youth. He looked down. Borrowing the power of heaven and earth, Dongbua Shuang instantly discovered the place where his mother was imprisoned. Chapter 88. The moment he sensed it, Dongbua Shuang's facial expression changed. Shua! In an instant, he appeared in front of a heavy door of one of the caves in the Thunder Tide shore. Dongwu Shuang extended his hand and grabbed the chain on the door. His hand was trembling slightly. Chi! The chain that could only be destroyed by a legend rancor started to crumble under Dongwu Shuang's hand. Quang! Dongwu Shuang gently opened the door. Within the cold and damp cave, a white-haired, purple-robed figure was sitting in a corner. She was silent. Because this cave was near the sea, it was already very humid. Back then, Mo Yang you could still use spells to clear the humidity. But now, the environment here was obviously much worse. Rumble! The seawater outside seemed to be crashing endlessly. Dongwu Shuang walked over slowly and sat by the side silently, looking at the white-haired, purple-robed woman in front of him. Dongwu Shuang's heart trembled. When he was young, his mother was so beautiful and had a transcendent temperament. But the woman in front of him, her hair was completely white and messy. Her skin was dark, and her purple robe was dirty. There wasn't even a trace of magic undulation coming from her body. She had turned into an ordinary person. Dongwu Shuang's eyes turned moist. He extended his hand and gently grabbed his mother's hand. His mother's hand was very rough. Mother! Dongwu Shuang's voice was very soft. The white-haired, purple-robed woman turned her head and looked over. When she saw the black-robed young man in front of her, she was still slightly doubtful. Because, when they were captured, Dongwu Shuang was only 8 years old. I am Snow Eagle! Your son, Dongwu Shuang! Dongwu Shuang's voice was trembling. Snow Eagle? Mo Yang shook her head lightly. I am really Snow Eagle. Look at my face, there are 2 small birthmarks here. Dongwu Shuang pointed at the spot under his eye. The birthmark was very faint and small. Normally, no one would notice it. It would only be discovered if one looked closely. Mo Yang's eyes lit up as she carefully looked at Dongwu Shuang's face. Eyes, nose, ears, his mother was too familiar with her son. When he was 8, Dongwu Shuang already had a rough idea of what he looked like now. With a closer look, she noticed many differences. Even his appearance, Dongwu Shuang looked more like his father, Dongwu Lai. Mo Yang stretched out her trembling hand and touched her son's head. As soon as she touched it, her eyes turned red and tears flowed down. Snow Eagle, it's really you, it's really you. You didn't die? Mo Yang was excited. I didn't die, your son fell into the black wind abyss, but I came out alive. Dongwu Shuang is also shedding tears, both mother and son are incomparably emotional. At this time, suddenly, a guard filled with baleful aura walked towards the entrance of the cave Mo Yang was in. He muttered, Master said that the door to Mo Yang's confinement area has been opened? But it's not time to deliver food yet. I haven't heard of anyone coming to visit this crazy woman. This crazy woman has gone crazy from cultivating spells. She doesn't even care about her brother, Mo Yangchen. Who would come to visit her? Very quickly, he reached the entrance of the cave. The heavy door was opened. The guard looked inside and saw a white-haired purple-robed woman and a black-robed youth sitting together. Brat, who are you? Who allowed you to come in? The guard shouted. Dongwu Shuang was talking to his mother. Because of his mother's current appearance, he was already suppressing his anger. When he heard the noisy guard beside him, he couldn't help but turn his head. His eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. Boom! Wu Xian's willpower instantly rushed over. When Dongwu Shuang achieved one with the world, his soul was nourished. When he reached the realm of myriad existences, his soul was also strengthened. Most importantly, when he stepped into the transcendent realm, his body would undergo a transformation, and his soul would also undergo a transformation. If Dongwu Shuang stared at a person when he achieved one with the world, it would be as though tens of thousands of people were staring at a single person. But now, Dongwu Shuang's gaze already carried a substantial pressure. On the path of transcendence, a huge upgrade would cause one's entire life to evolve. The soul was the most obvious, and it could even become a god. Ah! That guard felt his vision blur, his ears ringing, and his soul trembling. His body went limp and fell backwards, directly landing on the rocks at the bottom of the thunder-tide shore. Luckily, his body was strong enough, and he only bled a little. He then tumbled back into the sea. The impact of the sea water woke him up, and he immediately ran away in fear. With a sweep of his gaze, the guard fell down the thunder-tide shore and disappeared from his sight. Dongwu Shuang turned his head and continued to look at his mother. He held her hand and said, "Mother, let me wash your hair." "And okay. It's been dirty for a long time." Mo Yanyu looked at her son, but she still couldn't get enough of it. Dongwu Shuang lightly waved his hand, and a golden basin appeared in front of him. This was one of the miscellaneous items in Xiang Pengyun's storage treasure. A stream of water appeared in the golden basin, and very quickly it was filled with water. Right now, Mo Yanyu only had her son in her eyes. She didn't even notice how the water appeared. She lowered her head, and allowed Dongwu Shuang to wash her hair. Her dirty hair. Dongwu Shuang washed it very carefully. There was even water flowing around his fingertips, and it wrapped around the strands of hair, taking away the dirt. In just a short moment, Mo Yanyu's hair became clean. Whew! The heaven and earth energy danced around the surroundings, and the entire cave looked brand new. The purple robe that Mo Yanyu was wearing was a refiner's item. With a slight tremble of the heaven and earth energy, the dirt on the purple robe disappeared. "Mother, come and eat something." Dongwu Shuang waved his hand, and the stone table in the cave flew over. A formless light swept across the surface of the stone table, and cut off the surface layer, causing the stone table to become smoother and cleaner. Some snacks and fruits were placed on the stone table, and there was also a bottle of spiritual liquid from the stone of oceanic world. Dongwu Shuang poured the spiritual liquid for his mother. "Try it." Dongwu Shuang laughed. Mo Yanyu smiled as she picked up the wine cup and drank a cup. The moment she drank it, her originally dark and gloomy skin regained some luster, and her eyes brightened up. This stone of oceanic world was the core treasure of a small world. To transcendents, it could nourish their bodies and souls. To mortals, its effects were even more miraculous. "What is this? The injuries from my magic power insurrection have healed by 20%. Mother was shocked. "This is a type of transcendent spiritual liquid. If it can help, drink more. You can even eat it as a meal." Dongwu Shuang asked doubtfully. "Mother, your magic power insurrection? What happened? Also, I heard that you had already stepped into the meteor rank. How did your magic power insurrection happen?" Logically speaking, it was relatively safe for a mage to cultivate all the way to the legend rank. Magic power insurrection rarely occurred. Initially, when I found out that something had happened to you, Mo Yanyu smiled, I was filled with pain and hatred. I wanted to quickly become stronger so that I could kill my way out. But at that time, my heart was in a mess, and I was too anxious to step into the Silver Moon rank. When I broke through, my magic power model collapsed, and my magic power was completely dispersed. Furthermore, my soul was injured. Dongwu Shuang gently held his mother's hand and comforted her. The battered guard escaped from the seaside and had already rushed to the camp beside the forbidden area. He shouted, "Something big happened! Something big happened!" Chapter 89. Thunder-Tide Shore was a forbidden area where many prisoners were locked up. Naturally, there was a large group of guards and mages controlling the array of the forbidden area. Quick, 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 it's an Mo Yanyu's cell. That black-clothed youth is too powerful. With just a glance, my eyes became blurry and my ears were ringing. I directly fell down Thunder-Tide Shore into the sea. Too scary, the guards said in fear. Very quickly, a large group of guards gathered. The leader in charge of guarding Thunder-Tide Shore was a Silver Moon Knight. Just a glance and you fell down? The Silver Moon Knight carrying the weapon box frowned. Could it be a mage that specializes in the soul? First, second, and third squads, gather and prepare to depart. The Silver Moon Knight immediately ordered. Activate the array and prepare to attack. Yes. Yes. Everyone carried out the order. The Forbidden Areas array began to activate. The surrounding temperature of Thunder Tide Shore began to drop rapidly. Frost began to form on the ground. Scram! An angry roar resounded in the surroundings. A turbulent wave of water appeared out of nowhere. Like a huge snake slithering, this huge wave of water that was at least a few hundred meters long swept across the gathered guards. The guards were all panicking. Some were holding on to their weapons while others were holding on to their shields. The Silver Moon Knight who stood at the very front also had a change in expression. A shield appeared in his hand and blocked in front of him. Rumble! The wave swept across, and the guards were all sent flying. The Silver Moon Knight was the only one who was able to stand steadily. His expression changed. Water attribute magic? It's actually so powerful. I'm afraid it's a Silver Moon mage. Who dares to invade my Mo Yang clan's forbidden area? The Silver Moon Knight shouted. State your name! Suddenly, a flame dochi soared into the sky. The faint flame dochi looked ordinary, but it caused the Silver Moon Knight to feel an invisible fear. Every strand of dochi was like sunlight. The flame dochi in the sky condensed into a huge palm. Who? The huge palm slapped towards the Silver Moon Knight. No, this isn't a mage. The wave of water just now was caused by the realm of myriad existences. The Silver Moon Knight came to his senses. He wanted to dodge, but the huge flaming palm was too fast. He could only use his shield to block it. Pun! The giant palm descended, and with a single slap, the Silver Moon Knight was smashed into the rocky ground. There were many sounds of bones breaking, and the Silver Moon Knight immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Thank you for sparing my life, my lord. The Silver Moon Knight was horrified. He knew that his opponent had been merciful. Otherwise he would have been smashed into minced meat. Only then did the huge flaming palm slowly retract. The soldiers who were rolling in the distance, as well as the leader of the Silver Moon Knights, looked at the huge flaming palm flying in the air in horror. In the end, the palm turned into a large amount of dochi and flew back to the cave where Mo Yangyu was at the Thunder Tide Shore. Captain? Immediately, a guard came over and helped the Silver Moon Knight up. Everyone, don't mess around. Don't disturb that lord. The Silver Moon Knight ordered. Yes. All the soldiers hurriedly responded. What kind of joke was this? If they really fought, they would probably be killed in an instant. Just now, when the water wave swept across, it used a gentle force. Other than the Silver Moon Knight, the other weaker soldiers, including the Meteor Knight and the weakest ordinary soldiers, were all sent flying. However, none of them died. Clearly, he had been merciful. This palm doesn't seem like a spell. It seems more like dochi. The Silver Moon Knight clutched his chest. His eyes were filled with unease and panic. Even when the dochi is separated from the body, it can still be so powerful? Could it be a transcendent? Within the cave, Dongbush Shuang was currently chatting with his mother, eating some snacks and drinking the spiritual liquid of the Stone of Ocean Boundary. He didn't want anyone to disturb him, so he controlled the water from a distance to send the guards flying. If he had used fire, he would probably have burned those guards to death. Although Dongbush Shuang was suppressing his anger, he wasn't a lunatic. He knew that every injustice had a perpetrator, and every debt had a debtor. As for these low-ranking soldiers, they were only doing this for a living. Only the leader of the Silver Moon Knight, Dongbush Shuang, had taught him a lesson. Snow Eagle. Mo Yangyu watched as the faint red dochi flew in through the entrance of the cave and entered Dongbush Shuang's body. Your dochi can leave your body and retract it so easily. Could it be that you've already? Mo Yangyu was in disbelief. And I just became a transcendent not long ago, Dongbush Shuang said. I fell into the Black Wind Abyss. Because I became a transcendent, I was lucky enough to escape. Mo Yangyu couldn't believe it, but she was also incomparably proud. Her son, 20 years later, that 8-year-old boy had become a legendary transcendent life form. It's like a dream. I can't believe it. Mo Yangyu smiled. Mother, eat some more. This time, Dongbush Shuang only brought some snacks. He guessed that his parents hadn't been living well these past few years. And Mo Yangyu was in a good mood. She ate with big mouthfuls and drank the spirit liquid. Her skin color was changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shuang poured cup after cup for his mother. Even after the flask was finished, he would send even more spiritual liquid from his storage treasure into the flask. In the past few years, his mother's magic energy had gone berserk and collapsed, and her soul had been injured. Then, because she was too sad, coupled with the fact that a mage's body was already weak, and without the nourishment of magic energy, her condition had naturally plummeted. Spirit liquid from the stone of oceanic world was something that even a transcendent saint expert wouldn't be willing to eat or drink. This was Elder Leijin's greatest gain in his life. Before he died, he left behind an array. He would rather destroy it than give it to the demonic beast clan. Usually, if he drank a little, he wouldn't feel hungry for a few days. A pot of spirit liquid was equivalent to 10 days' worth. It was worth over 1,000,000 gold coins. Of course, Transcendents wouldn't be willing to exchange it for gold coins. At their level, the money in the mortal world was more than enough for them. Gold coins were just numbers. What they valued more were transcendent items. "Mother, how did you know that something had happened to me?" Dongbush Shuang asked. "Mo Yangchunbai sent someone to tell me," Mo Yangyu said. "He was purposely trying to anger me. But if not for him, I'm afraid that I would only know about Snow Eagle's matter after a long time." "It's Mo Yangchunbai again." Dongbush Shui Ying's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had to die. However, Dongbush Shuang quickly controlled his emotions and continued to accompany his mother to eat, drink, and chat. He hoped that his mother would be happier. "And you're actually full?" Mo Yangyu smiled. "Unknowingly, I drank a lot. My soul's injuries have completely recovered, but I feel like I can't drink anymore." "If you're full, then you don't need to drink anymore." Dongbush Shuang smiled. "This kind of transcendent spirit liquid, most people would not feel hungry after drinking a cup a day. Mother, you were injured and your body had deteriorated over the past few years. That's why you were able to absorb and digest it continuously. Now that your body has recovered, you are naturally full." The Mo Yangyu in front of him still had snow-white hair, but the roots of her hair had turned black. Her complexion had completely recovered to how it was 6 years ago, and her spirit was even better. "So mystical," Mo Yangyu said. "This spirit liquid is extremely important. Mother, you better not tell anyone about it," Dongbush Shuang said. That stone of ocean world was enough for him to use for 1,000 years. Naturally, he had to leave some for his parents, Qingshi, Uncle Zong, and Uncle Tom. They were all his family. However, he still had to keep it a secret. As for the others, Dongbush Shuang was not worried. After Qingshi experienced this setback, he should be much more stable now. This spirit liquid was beneficial to the body, dantian, qi-si, and soul. It was effective even for transcendents, not to mention mortals. It would be of great help to their cultivation. Even if his parents could not go far in their cultivation, they would still be able to live longer. "Don't worry, I know." Mo Yangyu smiled. "Then let's go and pick up father." Dongbush Shuang stood up. "Dongbua." Mo Yangyu's heart palpitated. Ever since she was imprisoned here, the two of them had been separated for 20 years. 20 years, it was too long. Holding on to his mother's hand, they walked out of the cave. Transcendent Dochi permeated the air, forming a protective layer around his mother. Following that, Dongbush Shuang brought his mother and flew up. Thunder Tide Shore. Flying in the sky, Missouri Yangyu looked down at the Thunder Tide shore and the dumbfounded guards. This was the place where she was imprisoned for 20 years. "Father is in the East Fragrant Lake Refinery. Let's go," Dongbush Shuang said. So, in an instant, he turned into a blazing rainbow and broke through the sky. So fast! The Silver Moon Rider leader, who had been clutching his chest with a pale face, looked at this scene in shock. "Flying in the sky and burrowing in the ground, it's a transcendent!" The legendary flying in the sky and burrowing in the ground? A transcendent? The guards at the side were also shocked. In this world, almost everyone had heard of a transcendent, but those who had actually seen one with their own eyes were extremely few. Who is that black-clothed youth? Mo Yang Yu has always been imprisoned. How could she have the chance to meet a transcendent? Is it someone she knew 20 years ago? The Silver Moon Rider was somewhat puzzled. In front of a transcendent, what does the Mo Yang clan count as? But why did they only save her after 20 years? Is it a transcendent who just broke through? The Silver Moon Rider speculated doubtfully. Suddenly he thought of a person. A very stunning person, a peerless monster that only appeared once in 100 years in the entire Dragon Mountain Empire. Yet he died together with Xiang Pengyun. Could it be Dongwu Shuang? He fell into the Black Wind Abyss and came out alive. The Silver Moon Rider was somewhat shocked, but he did not dare to confirm. After thinking about it, among the people that Mo Yang Yu knew, only that monster, Dongwu Shuang, could possibly become a transcendent. No matter who it is obvious that his relationship with Mo Yang Yu is not ordinary. Who knows, this transcendent might even vent his anger on the entire Mo Yang clan. The Silver Moon Rider trembled in fear. The anger of a transcendent? This was definitely not something that the Mo Yang clan could bear. We must report this news to the clan as soon as possible. The Silver Moon Rider did not dare to be negligent, and immediately ordered someone to pass the news. If it was an expert from the Azure River County, they would probably recognize Dongwu Shuang the moment they saw him. However, this was the Bellfeather County of the Eastfield Province. Only a few people knew of Dongwu Shuang's appearance. Boom! Dongwu Shuang held his mother's hand as he flew at high speed with flames surrounding him. So fast, is this how a transcendent can fly? Mo Yang Yu exclaimed as she looked at her surroundings. The scenery around her had become illusory, only the scenery far away could be seen clearly. My current speed is only half of my true maximum speed, Dongwu Shuang explained. When a transcendent carries another person, their speed will be much slower. His body had turned into particles and was completely attached to the flames, allowing his speed to soar to the extreme. Normally, he would only do this when he was in an urgent situation, or when he wanted to enter a narrow area such as a crevice. Maintaining his human form, he could only maintain 70 to 80% of his normal speed. If he were to carry another person, his speed would be even slower. Dongwu Shuang could only maintain half of his normal speed. We've arrived, the East Fragrance Lake is right in front. Dongwu Shuang held his mother's hand as they flew through the clouds. Soon, they could see the sparkling East Fragrance Lake below. So fast, we've only spoken a few sentences. Mo Yang Yu exclaimed. She had lived in Bellfeather County since young and was very clear of the distance between the East Fragrance Lake and the Thunder Tide shore. Dongwu Shuang used his world energy to envelop the Mage Tower and the refiner workshop beside the East Fragrance Lake. He easily found his father inside and relaxed. His father's condition was much better than his mother's. Chapter 90. The East Fragrant Lake Refinery was like a huge fortress. Tens of thousands of workers were working hard. Other than prisoners, most of them were ordinary people who came here to earn money. In the Mage Tower at the center of the workshop, Master Su Guangqing had the highest position, followed by his disciples, and then the servants. Dongbu Lai was the one who specialized in manual labor. Who is it? The alchemy workshop's security was much higher than that of the Thunder Tide shore. Other than Master Su Guangqing, there were also 2 Silver Moon mages specially assigned to operate the magic array. There were also Silver Moon Knights, and one of them even had a special alchemy armor, which allowed him to display the power of a legend ranker. With the coordination of the arrays and the various arrangements of the Mage Tower, even a legend ranker who had reached the state of one with the world could only escape in a sorry state. Who? Dongwu Shuang held his mother's hand and flew above the refinery, not caring about the guards at all. Hua hua hua, many of the knights had already rushed to the roof of the refinery. Raising their heads to look at the two figures in the sky, they were all nervous and their hearts trembled. These two were flying? Humph! Dongwu Shuang coldly glanced at them. A substantial soul fluctuation instantly swept towards the group of knights below like a shockwave. Under the impact of the shockwave, the knights felt their ears ringing. Everything in front of them became blurry and they felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. Their bodies involuntarily turned soft, and they all fell to the ground, including the Silver Moon Knight who was wearing the refinery armor. Mother, father is over there! Dongwu Shuang brought his mother and flew towards the Mage Tower. One of the windows of the Mage Tower silently melted, forming a door. Dongwu Shuang and Mo Yangyi walked in. Is it a transcendent? Regardless of whether it was the two Silver Moon mages controlling the arrays or the Mage Tower's master Suguang Qing, the heavily guarded refinery allowed them to discover Dongwu Shuang, who had openly barged in. At the same time, they also saw an inconceivable scene. With just a glance, all the knights, including the Silver Moon Knight, collapsed. Even a legend-ranked mage who specialized in the soul would need time to cast such a spell. Furthermore, both Dongwu Shuang and Dongwu Shuang had a layer of protective battle chi around their bodies. That transcendent battle chi was as dazzling as the sun. That white-haired girl, if I'm not mistaken, she's Mo Yangyi, right? A wizard asked. Everyone was so nervous that they didn't dare to move. Dongwu Lai was wearing tattered clothes as he sat in his small house to rest. His whole body was covered in sweat. His heaven-rank knight's body and Do Qi allowed him to maintain a strong body, but he had been very tired for the past 20 years. Especially in the last 6 years. First, he learned of the Snow Eagle's death. Then, he heard that his wife Mo Yangyi's magic power had gone berserk, and she had become a cripple. But he was still holding on. Dongwu Lai himself didn't know why he was still holding on. Perhaps it was because as long as he was alive, there was hope. He always held on to a glimmer of hope. Click. The door suddenly opened. I'm coming! Dongwu Lai jumped in fright and stood up. Suddenly, he was stunned when he saw the door. Outside the door stood a snow-white-haired lady in purple robes and a black-robed youth. Ah, you! Dongwu Lai couldn't believe his eyes. The lady in purple robes in front of him was still as beautiful as before. It was just that her hair had turned white. She didn't look like she had gone crazy like the rumors said. Dongwu. And Mo Yangyi looked at the brave man who had fought on the edge of life and death in the past. Her eyes couldn't help but turn red. She stepped forward and held her husband's hand. Dongwu Shuang silently watched from the side. He looked at his father and mother talking. He looked at his parents hugging each other and crying. Dongwu, I haven't told you yet. You should be able to tell. This is our son, Snow Eagle. And Mo Yangyi pulled Dongwu Shuang, who was beside her. Snow Eagle? Dongwu Lai felt that the black-robed youth in front of him was very familiar. He felt an indescribable sense of closeness. Hearing his wife's words, he found it hard to believe. But hasn't Snow Eagle already? After Snow Eagle fell into the Blackwind Abyss, he survived. He even became a transcendent. That was how he escaped from the Blackwind Abyss. Mo Yangyi said. Our son is already a transcendent. Dongwu Lai looked at his son. Eyes, nose, ears. He could clearly remember his son's appearance when he was 8 years old. He was absolutely sure that the person in front of him was his son, Dongwu Shuang. In the world, even if people look similar, it was only their overall appearance. Some of the details wouldn't be so exaggerated. Father, mother, from today onwards, the two of you no longer need to suffer, Dongwu Shuang said. No one has the qualifications to make you suffer. Dongwu Lai suddenly felt incomparably proud. My Dongwu Lai's son has become a transcendent. Ha! Dongwu Lai laughed excitedly. I knew it. One day, hope will come. One day! Ha! Good lad. Dongwu Lai smiled and nodded. I knew you would definitely be stronger than me. From the looks of it, you are much, much stronger than me. Not bad, not bad. Dongwu Shuiying's state of mind was extraordinary. But hearing his father's praise, he still felt happy and satisfied. Everything is over. Dongba Shui Ying's voice turned cold. But those who made you suffer, we can't let any of them off. And this damned Mo Yang clan. They made father and mother suffer for 20 years. This stupid clan doesn't need to exist anymore. Those who did this, all of them must pay the price. 20 years. His parents suffered greatly. His son and his parents parted. Snow Eagle. And Mo Yang, he said? No need. There is no need to make it like this. In the entire Mo Yang clan, there are only a few who have enmity with us. Most of them have no enmity with us. The patriarch has always been following the clan's rules. It can't be considered as me alone. After all, Mo Yang clan was the place where she grew up. There were many people she knew there. Just killing Mo Yang Qinbai and a few others and you want to let it go? Dongba Shuang stared. Impossible. 8 years old? That cold order took away his parents. Dongba Shuang wanted to kill Mo Yang Qinbai. But towards the patriarch who gave the order, towards the stupid higher-ups of the clan, he was also angry. Snow Eagle. Dongba Lai looked at his wife and said, That is after all your mother's birthplace. There are many relatives of your mother. There is no need to make things ugly. Father and mother, don't you hate them? Dongba Shuang asked anxiously. At least we are still alive. Mo Yang said. There is no need to implicate too many. Dongba Shuang clenched his teeth. South. In an instant they disappeared from the room. Mo Yang Yu and Dongba Lai left the room and went outside the window. Outside the window, Dongba Shui Ying's body was bathed in blazing do qi. He was like a god looking down on the mortal world. A terrifying pressure was emitted. Dongba Shui Ying's cold eyes swept across the room. All the mages and knights who were secretly watching in the alchemy workshop were terrified. Hi, Dongba Shui Ying. I'm afraid many of you have heard of my name. I came out of the Black Wind Abyss alive. So the ones who should be afraid now is your Mo Yang clan. Dongba Shui Ying's cold voice resounded throughout the entire workshop. According to my original plan, there is no need for your Mo Yang clan to exist. Those who should be killed will all be killed, including your patriarch who gave the order. But my mother pleaded for you, your Mo Yang clan is really lucky. But even if you can avoid death, you cannot escape punishment. Tell your patriarch, Mo Yang Qi, I am waiting for her apology. Dongba Shuang, who was in the air, caused all the mages and knights of the Mo Yang clan to feel uneasy. If I am not satisfied, His last sneer made everyone's heart turn cold. If he is not satisfied? What would Dongba Shuang do? Nobody knew. Father, mother. Dongba Shuang flew to his parents' side and held their hands. Let's go home. In. Dongba Lai and Mo Yang Yu nodded. Although Mo Yang Yu felt that her son's threat would definitely cause the Mo Yang clan to feel uneasy and kill a large number of people, it was still better than Dongba Shui Ying's original plan. Moreover, Mo Yang Yu no longer had any feelings for the Mo Yang clan. After so many years, she still had resentment in her heart. It was only because her brother and the others were around that she felt troubled. South, bringing along his parents, he turned into a stream of fiery light and instantly streaked across the sky, disappearing into the horizon. The entire alchemy workshop was silent. Very quickly, the Silver Moon mages and knights gathered around Master Su Guangqing. Master Su, what should we do? They were all panicking. What else can we do? If we cannot overcome this, the entire Mo Yang clan is finished. Master Su Guangqing shook his head. What we can do is to relay the words of the Transcendent State expert to the clan leader word for word. Let the clan leader make the decision. Sigh, how can the anger of a Transcendent State expert be so easily appeased? Chapter 91. The atmosphere in the Mo Yang clan's ancestral hall was extremely tense. The 3 clan elders who came to the hall were all pale and sweating profusely. Speak, what should we do? Sitting in the hall was a silver-robed woman. Her brows were filled with killing intent. She was the current clan leader of the Mo Yang clan, Mo Yang Chi. Ever since the ancestor who created the glory of the Mo Yang clan died, the Mo Yang clan gradually declined. Fortunately, Mo Yang Chi managed to change her body and became a pseudo-transcendent, allowing the Mo Yang clan to rise again. Although in front of a true transcendent, a pseudo-transcendent was a joke, in front of mortals, a pseudo-transcendent was very scary. They could also fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. Only a transcendent could injure them, and they had a lifespan of 800 years. Therefore, it was enough to maintain the prosperity of a clan. But the prerequisite was not to offend a transcendent. In the past, the Mo Yang clan had always been very cautious. They even tried to find ways to form a marriage alliance with a top clan that had a transcendent to strengthen their position. But this time, I believe in your clan elders. I left all the trivial matters of the clan to you, but what did you do? The silver-robed woman's voice was filled with anger. Lord Dongwu Shuang was able to fight evenly with Xiang Pengyun at the age of 22, but he fell into the Black Wind Abyss. Falling into the Black Wind Abyss means certain death? No one had seen his corpse, so how could he be certain to be dead? At that time, you should have treated Dongwu Shuiying's parents well. The three elders didn't dare to make a sound. They were also muttering to themselves. The matter of Dongwu Shuiying and Xiang Pengyun dying together, clan leader, you also know about it. Now we've caused a huge disaster. Our Mo Yang clan has been passed down for thousands of years. If we make a single mistake, we'll be destroyed. Mo Yang Chi was furious. She was indeed panicking. The news of Thunder Tide Shore and East Fragrant Lake Refinery had already spread. Flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground, Transcendent Do Chi, causing a group of knights including a Silver Moon Knight to fall to the ground with just a glance. All these proved that Dongwu Shuiying was a true transcendent. Dongwu Shuiying's threat had been transmitted word for word from East Fragrant Lake. Mo Yang Chi also panicked, because Dongwu Shuiying's threat included this sentence: everyone who should be killed must be killed, including your clan leader who gave the order. Clearly, the original plan was to kill her, the clan leader. Fortunately, with the relationship between Mo Yang Yu and our family, he did not take things too far. Thinking of this, Mo Yang Chi's eyes became even colder. She had made her decision. For the sake of our family's survival, we must satisfy Lord Dongwu Shuiying, Mo Yang Chi said. Now, whenever she mentioned Dongwu Shuiying, she would add the word Lord at the back to show her respect. Yes. We have to satisfy Sir Dongbo. The elders all nodded in agreement. Who was the one who suggested punishing Mo Yang Yu in the Elders Guild? Who suggested marrying Mo Yang Yu out? Mo Yang Chi said. Out of the three elders present, two of them looked at the cold old man. The cold old man's face changed. Elder Shan, you've lived long enough, it's time to sacrifice for the family. Mo Yang Chi looked at him coldly. The cold old man clenched his teeth and said with a sinister expression, I suggested marrying Mo Yang Yu out. I just casually gave her a name. She violated the rules of the family. Of course she must be punished. You still want to resist? Mo Yang Chi's eyes were filled with killing intent. A big family with thousands of years of inheritance, the family's population was already in the tens of thousands. Elder Mo Yang Shan's entire bloodline was sacrificed. It was a small matter. Mo Yang Shan, you're not young anymore. You've received the family's grace, yet you're still afraid of death? You suggested severe punishment. How can you cower at this time? The other two elders said angrily. The Elders Guild had a group of elders, like Grand Master Su Guangqing, who was an external elder. However, there were only these three in the family's ancestral home, so what if they killed an elder? It's my fault. The cold old man lowered his head. Why did you suggest marrying Mo Yang Yu out? Who asked you for help behind the scenes? Record everything down, no matter if it's in the open or in the dark. Anyone who is involved in this scheme, not a single one of them can be let off. Mo Yang Chi said indifferently. The bigger the family, the more intense the infighting became. There were many direct descendants of the family, so why was Mo Yang Yu chosen? Naturally, there was a secret struggle behind the scenes. After capturing Mo Yanyu and Dongbo Lai, those who schemed against this couple, those who harmed them, not a single one of them can be let off. No matter if it's the one who gave the order, or the one who carried it out. These are all the most basic things. In the end, how can we appease the anger of the Transcendents? Ask the elders of the family to discuss and quickly come up with a plan. Mo Yangqi immediately stood up and ordered. Hurry up and do it, those who should be arrested, not a single one can escape. In a luxurious garden, a middle-aged man wearing a luxurious robe was sitting comfortably. Beside him, there was a group of beauties serving him, peeling fruits for him and giving him a massage. He was Mo Yangchen Bai. He had just passed 90 years old, but as a silver moon knight, living to 160 or 170 years old was normal. Some could even live up to 200 years old. In terms of lifespan, he could not be considered old. Master! A skinny young man rushed into the garden and anxiously shouted. Master, master, something big has happened. Bastard! What happened? How dare you barge in? If it's nothing important, be careful of your dog life. Mo Yangchen Bai's face was filled with killing intent. This was the back garden, a place where his women stayed. Male servants and male guards were generally forbidden from entering. It's news from the East Fragrant Lake Refinery, saying that Dongbush Shuiying has already become a transcendent, and has already rescued his parents. Furthermore, he gave our Mo Yang family an ultimatum. The skinny young man was Mo Yangchen Bai's lackey. If his master was finished, then his good days as a lackey would also be over. Master, we need to quickly think of a plan. Mo Yangchen Bai's face changed. Isn't Dongbush Shuiying dead? How did he become a transcendent? Is the news wrong? Rumble suddenly, there was a roar in the sky, and a black refinery airship appeared in the sky. On the airship stood a group of powerful knights and mages, looking down coldly at Mo Yangchen Bai. Mo Yangchen Bai was the most important person in this capture, and he was also the strongest one. To prevent any accidents, the ancestral mansion directly sent out the refinery airship to kill him. Mo Yangchen Bai, quickly surrender! A loud shout came from above. From noon onwards, the entire Mo Yang family began a reign of terror, such as the main culprit, Mo Yangchen Bai, who was interrogated that very night, was executed. Some of the elders of the family, these elders may be weak, but they were all shrewd people, and had made great contributions to the family, so they were supported by the family, and usually came up with plans for the family. They were also discussing how to appease the anger of a transcendent. After all, even if this matter temporarily passed, if Dongbush Shuiying bore a grudge, the Mo Yang family would still be destroyed in the future. Therefore, they must think of a way to appease the anger. In the evening, the sun had already set, and the sky was gradually darkening. Dragon Mountain Manor's Manor Lord Xian stood at the city gate, gazing at the horizon, waiting. Hua! A flaming light appeared in the distant horizon, and stopped in the sky. It's the Lord, and beside him are Dongbo Lai and his wife. Xian immediately recognized the three figures in the sky. High up in the sky, Dongbo Shuiying and his parents were looking down. 20 years we're back. Dongbo Lai and Mo Yangyi looked down, their hearts were in turmoil. Ah, it's the Lord. The Lord is in the sky, and beside him. Ah, it's the old Lord. Although 20 years had passed, many of the soldiers and servants had been here since the castle was built. With a glance, they recognized Dongbo Lai and Mo Yanyu, causing the entire castle to boil. Father, mother, let's go down. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. I reckon that Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong and Qingshi will be here soon. Dongbo Lai and Mo Yanyu, on the other hand, became even more timid, inexplicably nervous and flustered. Who? The three landed in front of the castle's main gate. The drawbridge had long been lowered, and the gate had always been open. Manor Lord Xian, Yu Tu and a large group of people were waiting at the gate. Dongbo Yu. Accompanied by excited voices, Zhongling, Tong San and Qingshi all appeared at the gate. Among them, Zhongling and Tong San were the most excited. Master. Tong San looked at the snow-white-haired Mo Yang Yu. This sturdy beast-race lion man was crying. Zhong Ling and Tong San rushed up and hugged Dongbua Lai and his wife. Ah! Zhong Ling quickly pulled the timid Qing Shi. Dongbua Yu, this is Qing Shi. Little Shi too? Mo Yang Yu looked at Qing Shi. When they first separated, Dongbua Shuang was already 8 years old, and his appearance was more or less the same. But Qing Shi, who was only 2 years old at that time, had changed a lot since he grew up. Mo Yang Yu didn't dare to recognize him. Qing Shi felt complicated. Looking at Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong and his brother's excited expressions, he really didn't have much of an impression of his parents. Little Shi too. Mo Yang Yu reached out and held her son's hand. The more she looked at him, the closer she felt. Little Shi too looks a lot like IU. Dongbua Lai also smiled. His parents and little brother gradually became familiar with each other. Dongbua Shuang was watching from the side, and his mood was extremely good. At this time, Manor Lord Xian walked over and said in a low voice, "Lord." Manor Lord Xian. Dongbua Shuang looked at him and smiled. "I'm ashamed. I was slightly delayed and only returned now." Lord's return was already very fast. "I have something to tell Lord." Manor Lord Xian hurriedly said, "My tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor's Lord Yihong arrived in the afternoon. He's over there." Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor's Manor Lord? Dongbua Shuang turned his head to look. Behind Manor Lord Xian, there was a skinny man with a simple bun of long hair. This skinny man smiled at Dongbua Shuang as he walked over. He sensed for a moment. Pseudo-transcendent? Dongbua Shuang made his judgment. "Greetings, Lord Dongbua." The skinny man smiled. "I am Yihong. I'm in charge of the Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor's miscellaneous matters. Actually, I'm just here to run errands for the various transcendents. In the future, if there's anything you need, please let me know." Chapter 92. Yihong's attitude was very humble, but when Dongbua Shuang was trapped for 6 years, he often chatted with the transcendent cultivator monkey and little bird. Therefore, he was very clear that in any era, there would be a special organization like the Dragon Mountain Manor that monitored the world. The Dragon Mountain Emperor established an empire, so this organization was called Dragon Mountain Manor. Just like how the Xia people once had an Emperor Lai Xiong, who unified the world and established an empire. At that time, the organization that monitored the world was called Lai Xiong Dojo. The name changed, but the essence was the same. They monitored the world and served the transcendents. This Yihong was able to become the head of intelligence for a province, so his position was rather special. For a true transcendent like Dongbua Shuang, killing a pseudo-transcendent was a small matter. But if he killed the head of intelligence for a province, it would be the same as slapping the face of the Dragon Mountain Manor. There would be a lot of trouble, and he might even be sent to the infernal realm to be punished. "Lord Yihong, you came rather quickly." Dongbua Shuang smiled. "Let's sit inside and chat. I'm not in a hurry." "Lord Dongbua, why don't you accompany your parents first?" Yihong said. "Haha. I'll be at home during this period of time, so I'm not in a hurry." Dongbua Shuang had accompanied his parents back from Bellfeather County in the Eastfield Province, and they had chatted for a long time on the way back. Now was a suitable time for his parents and younger brother to interact more. Dongbua Shuang and Yihong walked into the castle. Soon, they sat down in a pavilion in the corridor, and there was no one around. When I heard that Lord Dongbua had come out of the Black Wind Abyss alive, I was also shocked. It's rare for someone to become a transcendent at the age of 28 in the entire Dragon Mountain Empire. The last person who came close to Lord Dongbua was our Tranquil Sun Province's Lord Qiu Qibai, Yihong said. However, Lord Qiu Qibai only became a transcendent at the age of 31. He was slower than you by 3 years. Now that Lord Qiu Qibai is the number 1 on the Transcendent Sage board, I believe that Lord Dongbua will also be ranked on the Sage board. First on the Saint board? Dongbua Shuang was shocked. Lord Dongbo, you might not understand, But since ancient times, there has always been a saint ranking and a demigod ranking among the transcendents, Ying explained. The cultivation path of a transcendent expert is split into soaring heavens, saint, and demigod, these three great realms. Most of them are only at the sky realm. If they can step into the saint realm, they can be considered as the backbone of the Xia people. If they become demigods, they will be the true peak existences. There are a total of 30 people on the saint ranking. This includes humans, magical beasts, and even the natives of the extraordinary world. There are 10 people on the demigod list. Ying flipped his hand, and 2 long scrolls appeared. These are the 2 rankings, drawn up by the infernal realm. Dongba Shuang took it. He had long known about the existence of the saint list and the demigod list. This was also to encourage transcendents to go further in their cultivation path. However, Dongba Shuang did not expect Qiu Qibai to be number 1 on the saint board. One must know that humans, magical beasts, and the natives of the transcendent world were all chosen. Magical beasts were too talented, and according to his understanding, most of the time, it was the magical beast race that was chosen to be number 1 on the saint board. Dongba Shuang looked at the rankings carefully. Saint board rank 1, Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qibai, Elder of the Water Taoist faction. Started with the profound mystery of the wind of all creation. Grasped the true meaning of space cleavage. When he moves, it is hard to distinguish his tracks. In an instant, he can appear anywhere. The true meaning of space cleavage cannot be resisted by saints. Main battle record: once defeated the demigod ghost deity Knight Fengdong, and killed the native demigod Wind Howl King. Saint board rank 2, Lord Beirut magical beast race. Started with the profound mystery of the water of all creation. Grasped the true meaning of undying. His body is tyrannical. Even if he is heavily injured, he can instantly recover. Extremely terrifying in close combat. Main battle record: battled with Qiu Qibai for 2 hours before being defeated. Rescued by the demigod of the Sorcerer God Palace. Saint board rank 3, Blood Devil. The highest leader of the small transcendent world Blood Devil world. Within the Blood Devil world, he borrows the world's power to strengthen himself. Until now, no one has been able to defeat him. Saint board rank 4. Everyone looked at the rankings carefully. Dongba Shuang was extremely shocked. The top 5 of the saint board was only a human. It was Qiu Qibai. The main reason was that humans were too weak in terms of innate talent. However, from the 6th to the 10th place, 4 of them were humans. From the 11th to the 30th place, 15 of them were humans. Saint board rank 30. 20 of them are humans, 5 are from the magical beast race, and the remaining 5 are natives of the transcendent world. Tower Master Ying said, "Those who are able to enter the saint board are all rather impressive. They all have hopes of becoming demigods. Especially Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qibai. He is the most dazzling genius of our generation. He grasps the extremely terrifying true meaning of space cleavage. Furthermore, he is only 300 plus years old. It is almost certain that he will become a demigod. In the future, he might even become the strongest demigod and be ranked number 1 in the demigod board." Dongba Shuang looked at the other scroll. This was the demigod board. One must know that deities could only stay in the mortal world for a maximum of 10,000 years. Once that was over, they would be expelled from the material world. The Dragon Mountain Empire had been established for over 9,000 years. When the Dragon Mountain Emperor became a deity, he was already over 1,000 years old. After establishing the empire for so long, it was obvious that the Dragon Mountain Emperor was forced to leave the material world. Currently, there were no deities in the entire world. Demigods were already the strongest. These are the 10 strongest existences in the world, Ying said from the side. Dongba Shuang looked at the demigod board scroll. Demigod board rank 1, Black White God Mountains Mountain Lord Yuan. Peak of demigod realm. Condensed the true deity heart. Demigod board rank 2, Fire Demon Emperor. Fire Demon World's Supreme Leader. Condensed the true deity heart. Demigod board rank 3, Sorcerer God Palace's Grand Elder Aeolon, grasped the true meaning of life. Demigod Board Rank 4. Soon, he looked through them one by one. There were a total of 10 demigods. Among them, 4 had condensed the true deity heart. Ying said from the side, Mountain Lord, he is the #1 expert in the world. He is the strongest demigod. His strength is unfathomable, and he has yet to meet a worthy opponent. As for the Fire Demon Emperor, he is usually in his Fire Demon world. At most, he would send a clone to infiltrate the human world. There is nothing to worry about. On the contrary, this Sorcerer God Palace's Grand Elder is the most frightening enemy of us humans. Most frightening? Dongbush Shuang was stunned. Right. Although he has not condensed the true deity heart, he has only grasped the true meaning. However, he has grasped the true meaning of life. He is able to transform a demon beast into a human. That is a true human body. There are no flaws at all. Ying sighed. The Sorcerer God Palace has infiltrated us humans, and the source is this Grand Elder. The threat he poses is too great. We humans have always wanted to kill this Sorcerer God Palace's Grand Elder. However, his whereabouts are unpredictable. Furthermore, he has grasped the true meaning of life. Even until now, we have not been able to kill him. Ying's eyes were filled with unwillingness. He then laughed. Of course, this is too far away for us. No matter what, he is still one of the top 3 existences in the world. Let those demigods worry about him. Chapter 93. Under the Pavilion. As the tea was steaming, Dongbush Shuang smiled. Since the birth of humans and beasts, our Xia people's history has also seen the birth of gods. In the long history of the beasts, there have also been many geniuses. However, no one has been able to completely exterminate the other. It is too difficult to end the war between humans and beasts once and for all. Haha, that's right. Ying smiled. Lord Dongbua is right. In history, the beasts have also caused us to suffer greatly. The Great Elder of the Sorcerer God Palace is merely the most difficult opponent in this era. Shame, this topic has gone too far. The lifespan of demigods is very long. Most of them seek to become gods and obtain a truly limitless lifespan. Ying said. That's right, this demigod ranking is only determined by our infernal realm. It cannot be said that it is absolutely correct. Those demigods all cultivate in seclusion to become gods. Who knows, one day, a demigod will appear and display an invincible strength. Dongbush Shuang nodded. He already knew this point. What the demigods desire the most is to become gods. After all, a demigod's lifespan is only 3,000 years. Only gods have an unlimited lifespan. Next, let's talk about proper business, Ying said. On our side, there are 6 transcendent organizations and a demonic faction hidden in the dark. The 6 transcendent organizations are the Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern, Black-White Deity Mountain, Cloud City, Water Taoist Faction, and Sea Deity Palace. Ying introduced. These 6 transcendent organizations represent the righteous path. They protect the entire Xia people, allowing our Xia people to continue on. However, there are still some transcendents, who are more selfish. They don't care about mortals, they don't even care about their own clans. They only care about themselves. Therefore, they were tempted by the demonic god. For treasures, for strength, they relied on the demonic god, forming the demonic faction. Dongbush Shuang nodded lightly. Selfish? That's too normal. Transcendents were fundamentally superior to mortals, and their goal in the path of cultivation was to become a god. In addition to their long lifespans, many transcendents still had feelings for mortals and their own families at the beginning. But gradually, their parents, children, and other close relatives would grow old and die. After a few hundred years, they would no longer have a deep attachment to their own families. Some of them were even more self-centered. For example, being stuck at Sky Peak or Saint Peak. In order to seek more resources for breakthroughs, or for the sake of greater strength, there were many who sought refuge with the demonic faction. Behind the demonic faction was an extremely powerful demon god. He was very willing to send large amounts of treasures to this side of the world in order to attract more transcendence. The 6 great transcendent organizations and the demonic faction are the main transcendent powers of humanity. As for those ordinary fiend celestial forces and some small transcendent organizations, they are not worth mentioning. They are not qualified to invite you, Lord Dongbo. This time, the ones who came to invite Lord Dongbo are the 6 great transcendent organizations and the demonic faction. I'm afraid that the demonic faction will secretly contact you. Lord Dongbo, you must not make a mistake. Yihong tried to persuade him. For a genius who had stepped into the transcendent realm at the young age of 28, it would be a great humiliation to the 6 great transcendent organizations if he were to be hooked up by the demonic faction. Don't worry, everyone in the demonic faction wants to kill them. Furthermore, I have relatives to tie me down, so it's impossible for me to join the demonic faction. Dongbu Shuang said. Yihong smiled. Then I'll briefly explain the 6 great transcendent organizations. The Temple of the Earth God believes in an extremely powerful God. It is said that his position in the deity world is extremely high, with many gods following him. He is the only organization in the entire Xia people's world that has the qualifications to spread his faith. Anyone else who dares to spread their faith are all demonic gods. It's good to have a big tree behind you. The Temple of the Earth God will also give you many benefits. Once you join, there will be many secret techniques that other transcendent organizations don't have. The transcendence of the Temple of the Earth God. Only the transcendence of the Bloodshed Tavern can match up to them. Overall, they are much stronger than the other 4 great transcendent organizations. The Bloodshed Tavern also has an amazing god behind them. Fortunately, that great existence doesn't care about faith. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win against the Temple of the Earth God. The transcendents of the Bloodshed Tavern are all experts in massacres. The 2 transcendent organizations mentioned above both have the backing of a powerful god. Once you join, the advantage is that you will have more resources, and you will also have powerful secret techniques that cannot be learned in the outside world. However, the disadvantage is that there are too many rules and restrictions. The remaining 4 great transcendent organizations are the Black-White Deity Mountain, Cloud Mist City, Water Taoist Faction, and Sea Deity Palace. These are the organizations that our Xia people have established over the generations. They are also deeply rooted and have been passed down through the ages. Because they don't need to believe in any god, the 4 great organizations have more freedom and are not restricted. At the same time, the 4 great transcendent organizations have their own territories. The 5 northern provinces are under the control of the Water Taoist faction. The 6 central provinces are under the control of the Black-White Deity Mountain. The 4 southern provinces are under the control of the Cloud Mist City. Although there are only 4 provinces, the southern provinces have good weather, there are more plains, and the population is also higher. The 4 overseas provinces, including all the seas, are under the control of the Sea Deity Palace in name. However, the area of the sea is too big, much bigger than the area of land. The Sea Deity Palace is unable to completely control it. Therefore, a few small-scale transcendent organizations have set up their foundations overseas. Yihong laughed. Our Tranquil Sun Province is one of the 5 northern provinces. For us, the more powerful legend rankers, other than the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern, only the Water Taoist faction would invite them. But Lord Dongbo, you are different. You are a transcendent, and you don't belong to any family. Furthermore, you are so young. Therefore, all the large transcendent organizations will sincerely invite you. Oh right, Lord Dongbo, if you become a transcendent, then Water Rights Town will automatically become the territory of your Dongbo clan. Yihong said. If Lord Dongbo joins the Water Taoist faction, then the entire Azure River County will secretly be under the control of your Dongbo clan. If you don't join the Water Taoist faction, then it will be very difficult for the Dongbo clan to touch the Azure River County. Dongbu Shuang lightly nodded. He knew this point. Transcendents had special privileges. Sky Realm and Saint Realm Transcendents could directly obtain a territory of a county. This was their family's territory, and they had absolute control over it. Demigods could even obtain a county's territory. And in the dark, the families of Transcendents could control even more territories. For example, the Water Taoist faction controlled the 5 northern provinces. Therefore, the Transcendents of the Water Taoist faction had a lot of power in the 5 northern provinces. As long as Dongwu Shuang joined, he could immediately order people to take up any official position in Azure River County, with the exception of the Dragon Mountain Manor. Although they still belonged to the Empire in name, they had absolute control in the dark. So much so that the influence of a Transcendence family could even spread to the surrounding counties. One must know that even the Sea Clan, just by relying on Si Lianhong, could faintly control the entire Azure River County. Not to mention the clans of the truly powerful Transcendents. As for the Royal Clan? Without the Dragon Mountain Emperor, the Royal Clan could not be compared to the deeply rooted 6 Transcendent organizations. Right now, it was just a facade. Everything that needs to be said has been said. Lord Dongwu, you should think carefully about which side you should join. Yihong laughed. Actually, it doesn't matter if the territory controlled by the clan is a little smaller. To a Transcendent, personal strength is more important. I will consider. Dongwu Shuang nodded. Then I will take my leave. Oh right, who will be the first Marquis of the Dongwu clan? Yihong asked. My father, Dongwu Shuang said. Normal Transcendent clans could inherit the title of Marquis for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, they would be demoted to Earl. If they stepped into the realm of demigod, they could inherit the title of Duke for 5,000 years. If they became a deity, the 6 Transcendent organizations would temporarily lower their heads and submit to them. They could become the Emperor of the world, and their own clan would become the Royal Clan. They could continue to pass down their inheritance until the next deity was born. Yihong and Dongwu Shuang chatted for close to an hour. The two of them ate and drank a little before Yihong temporarily stayed in the castle. That night, Dongwu Shuang went to accompany his parents and little brother. His family was very lively. However, the current Dongwu clan's population was still too small. No matter how much territory they controlled, they still had to let outsiders manage it. Late at night, the wind blew. Dongwu Shuang laid on his bed and had already fallen asleep. He was in a good mood. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. En? Dongwu Shuang frowned. He wore his loose pajamas and walked to the corridor. His silhouette flashed twice, and he was already out of Snowrock Castle. He arrived at the top of a mountain outside the castle. At the top of the mountain, there was a man squatting on a huge rock. The left side of this man's hair was shaved, while the right side was hanging down. He squatted there with his eyelids drooping. In his hand was a blade that was slowly sharpening the rock. Although his eyelids were drooping, he could clearly sense an aura approaching him. That aura contained a sharp transcendent Do Qi, as well as a surging aura from his body. Dongwu Shuang, I didn't expect that the moment you stepped into the transcendent realm, your body's strength would already reach the middle stage of Sky Realm. You awakened the primordial bloodline when you were still a mortal? The half-bald man stopped sharpening his blade and raised his head to look at Dongwu Shuang. The sharpness in his eyes caused even Dongwu Shuang to feel fear. This was an extremely terrifying opponent. Chapter 94. In Dongwu Shuiying's senses, the half-bald man who was squatting on the big rock in front of him and sharpening his blade had a blurry aura, making it hard for him to determine his exact strength. For example, when he sensed Yihong, the head of the Dragon Mountain Manor in the Tranquil Sun Province, Dongwu Shuiying could clearly sense his aura and his Do Qi. He was sure that Yihong was only a pseudo-transcendent. But this half-bald man, even his senses were so vague. Clearly, the gap between them was too great. On the contrary, the other party could clearly sense his body and aura. Yes, he has awakened his primordial bloodline. Dongwu Shuiying did not hide anything. To transcendence, Awakening their primordial bloodline when they were still mortals was a small matter. I knew it. No wonder your body is so strong even though you just became a transcendent. The half-bald man's lips curled up. Transcendence would cause one's body to undergo a qualitative transformation. As for those ordinary legend rankers, their bodies were very weak and they relied more on their battle chi. But once he successfully transformed into a pseudo-transcendent, his body would transcend into a transcendent, and his do chi wouldn't change, but his physical strength would reach the level of the top 500 in the Dragon Mountain book. Before Dongwu Shuang broke through, under normal circumstances, his body was already able to reach the level of 1 to 200 in the Dragon Mountain list. After his body underwent transcendence, his body underwent a transformation. Right now, his pure physical strength had indeed reached the mid-stage of Sky Realm. Once he activated his power bloodline, he could barely reach the peak of Sky Realm. Sky rank was divided into initial stage, middle stage, and peak stage. Which bloodline? The half-bald man's eyes lit up. It can control the power of heaven and earth? Or space, or... It's just a normal burst of strength. Dongwu Shuang shook his head. What a pity, what a pity! If it was someone who could control the power of heaven and earth, or something related to space, or even an undying body, your future path of transcendence would be much easier. The half-bald man shook his head gently. Dongwu Shuang nodded. He was also very clear about this. There was almost no hope for the second awakening of the primordial bloodline. Therefore, his physical strength was almost at its peak. Even if he cultivated to become a saint-tier or even a demigod, his physical strength would not change much. At most, he could rely on some resources and treasures to forcibly increase his physical strength, but the increase was very small. To be able to step into the early stage of the saint level with great difficulty, the price one had to pay was enough to make a demigod's heart ache. As for battle chi, with time, he could easily cultivate it to the peak of Sky Realm. With the addition of a secret do chi technique, he would definitely be able to surpass his own physical strength. Therefore, the further one progressed, the more powerful one's do chi would be. Some who awakened the primordial bloodline were able to control ice, fire, teleportation, and even lightning. Then, after becoming a transcendent, those who could control ice would be able to control the power of ice more freely and clearly. It would be much easier for them to comprehend the profundities of all things. As for those who had awakened spatial bloodlines, they were even more heaven-defying. At the Sky Realm, he might be able to teleport. This was something that most martial saints could not do. On the other hand, Dongwu Shuang was only able to unleash his strength. It did not help him in comprehending the profound mysteries of all creations. It would not be of any help to his strength in the future. It was indeed a pity. I thought you'd awaken some kind of special primordial bloodline and become even more monstrous. What a pity! The half-bald man then grinned. Whatever, take a few moves from me first. Whoosh! The half-bald man moved in an instant. Dongwu Shuang did not expect the other party to attack so abruptly. He immediately retreated and shouted, "Stop!" He did not want to fight. This was because he still did not know the other party's identity. The 6 great transcendent organizations were righteous and protected the entire Xia people. Therefore, they were relatively united internally. Even if there were some competitions, they would rarely fight to the death. After all, the infernal realm had already set down a rule: transcendents were forbidden from killing each other. If one killed, they would be investigated and punished accordingly. If it was serious, they would even be sentenced to death. Of course, this rule did not apply to the demonic faction, Sorcerer Palace, or the natives of the transcendent world. If the man in front of him was from the 6 great transcendent organizations, he should not do anything to him. But what about the demonic faction or Sorcerer Palace? It was highly possible that he would be killed. Of course, logically speaking, even if the demonic faction and Sorcerer Palace had spies, they should not have arrived faster than the 6 great transcendent organizations. Do you think you can escape? The half-bald man turned into a shadow and blocked Dongbush Shuiying. Following that, a black light slashed towards him. What a fast blade! Dongbush Shuiying retreated. The Feishu godly spear appeared in his hands as he poured his transcendent Do Qi into the spear. Hu! The spear swung upwards to meet the black blade light. However, the black blade light casually changed its direction and dodged Dongbush Shuiying's attack. Voila! However, the Feishu godly spear also changed its form. The spear itself turned in a circle, but this simple circle completely enveloped a large area in front of it. The water around the spear also revolved, making it impossible for the black blade light to dodge. With a qi sound, it collided with the body of Dongbush Shuiying's spear. A strange force caused Dongbush Shuiying's spear to pause for a moment. The short blade immediately broke through the spear's defense and entered into close combat. Dongbush Shuiying's expression changed. Open! Dongbush Shuiying activated his strength bloodline as he swept the spear in his hand to the side. Blazing flames appeared on the tip of the spear, and its speed was incomparably ferocious. In addition to the fact that the spear was long enough to cover a large area, the half-bald man could only retreat with a tap of his feet. The tip of the spear whistled past the half-bald man's body, and the half-bald man's attack completely missed. Hong long long! Dongbush Shuiying used all his strength to sweep the spear horizontally, and the shockwave formed from the pressure of the spear blasted towards the side. Everywhere the shockwave passed, the mountain rocks and trees crumbled, and the entire area was destroyed by the shockwave. Furthermore, this was merely the aftermath of the shockwave. Eh? You actually managed to block me? Interesting. The half-bald man's voice reverberated in the air. Who? His figure strangely floated upwards, and Dongbush Shuiying could feel his figure becoming blurry. In an instant, he was already closing in on Dongbush Shuiying. Dongbush Shuiying had no choice but to spin his spear, forming a huge whirlpool of water in front of him. It was as though he was using a huge shield to block the enemy. Chi! Just like the previous time, the saber collided with the spear, causing the spear to stop in its tracks. However, this time, the saber was actually stuck to the spear, causing Dongbush Shuiying to have a hard time even exerting his strength. Hua! The saber stuck to the spear, and along the edge of the spear, it slashed towards Dongbush Shuiying. Dongbush Shuiying was forced to let go of the Feishu godly spear, and at the same time, he turned around to evade the saber. However, as he turned around, a shuttle-shaped dart appeared in both of Dongbush Shuiying's hands. Shwa, shwa, shwa. Under the explosive strength of Dongbush Shuiying, countless darts were thrown towards the half-bald man. Throwing darts at such a close distance caused the half-bald man to retreat in shock. At the same time, a black saber flashed in a circle, blocking the darts that were flying towards him. Dongbush Shuiying seized the opportunity to grab the spear back into his hands. Brat, you can still throw darts? The half-bald man felt helpless. Looks like it will be difficult to defeat you if I suppress my strength. I'm afraid I'll have to wait for another 8 to 10 moves. Compared to Senior, Dongbush Shuiying is still far from being able to match up to you, Dongbush Shuiying said. When they exchanged blows earlier, Dongbush Shuiying's strength was actually weaker than his. Other than the burst of speed that allowed the other party to suppress his speed, the other party's speed was much slower. It was just that the other party's movements were unpredictable, and the other party's cultivation realm was much higher. That was why Dongbush Shuiying could feel the gap between them. I've already cultivated for over 800 years, and I'm already at the peak of the martial saint realm. If I'm the same as you, wouldn't it be embarrassing? The half-bald man curled his lips. I didn't expect that you not only grasped the profound mystery of fire in creation, but you also grasped the profound mystery of water in creation. Furthermore, it seems like there's a connection between water and fire. Dongbush Shuiying was slightly shocked. This old fellow's eyesight was truly incredible. You're only 28 years old, and you're already able to complement each other with water and fire. Who knows, you might be able to grasp the true meaning of water and fire in the future. The half-bald man flipped his hand and took out a piece of paper. He threw it casually, and the paper sliced through the air like a saber. Dongbush Shuang reached out and caught it. This is the condition that our Bloodshed Tavern has set for you. As long as you join us, we will fulfill all of your conditions. Your comprehension is better than what I expected. I can make my own decision. The benefits on the paper can be increased by 50%. The half-bald man said. I will stay in Azure River County for 10 days. If you agree to join my Bloodshed Tavern within these 10 days, tear this piece of paper and I will come over immediately. The half-bald man suddenly laughed. Oh right, I haven't told you my name yet. I'm called Tu Liang. Tu Liang? Dongbush Shuang was shocked. Saint ranking number 10, Dark Knight Blade Demon Tu Liang, Bloodshed Tavern Assassin. Grasped the true meaning of Dark Knight. When the opponent exchanged blows earlier, he did not reveal the might of the profound mystery of myriad existences, nor did he reveal the might of his true meaning. Once he revealed it, there would be no need to fight anymore. Just by relying on some strange techniques, the opponent was able to suppress him. Little water lady, you've been watching from the side for a while. Why haven't you shown yourself yet? The half-bald man sneered. Who are you calling little water lady? An angry roar resounded in the air. A towering figure suddenly appeared at the top of the mountain. He was at least 2.5 meters tall, and his body was sturdy. He was wearing a bronze armor, and there was a faint stream of water surrounding his body. Such a powerful existence, how could he not be angry when he was called Little Water Lady? Ha ha, Little Water Lady is angry. All right, I'm leaving. If I continue, this temple night will go crazy. The half-bald man's figure flashed and completely merged into the darkness, disappearing from sight. Chapter 95. The face of the tall and big knight in bronze armor was like a sculpture. Seeing that the dark knight saber demon, Tu Liang, had disappeared, he let out a cold snort, and then looked toward Dongbush Shuang. A hint of a smile appeared on his face. I'm Wen Liang from the Serene Shrine. 21st on the Saint ranking, Water God Knight Wen Liang, Serene Shrine's Knight, grasped the true meaning of water. Dongbush Shuang was speechless. Wen Liang? Another expert ranked on the Saint ranking? It was important to note that there were only 30 humans, natives of the transcendent world, and demonic beasts on the Saint ranking. Our Serene Shrine has the most resources, and we even have many special techniques and secret arts passed down from the immortal realm. These are things that only our Serene Shrine's internal members can learn. Water God Knight Wen Liang smiled and said, Therefore, on the whole, our Serene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern are much stronger. Of course, for example, the current number 1 on the hallowed rankings, Eternal Wind Knight Xiu Qi Bai, it's purely because his comprehension ability is too high. The cultivation technique he cultivates is inferior to ours. This is the list. Wen Liang threw out a piece of paper that was glowing red as well. The paper flew towards Dongbush Shuang and said, You're actually able to comprehend the profound of water and fire creation at the same time. You're even more powerful than the information we received. I can make the decision to increase the resources and treasures on this paper by 50%. For the next 10 days, I will also be staying in Azure River County. If you decide to join my Temple of the Earth God, you only need to tear the paper. I will be able to sense it and come over immediately. Dongbush Shuang took the paper and looked at the conditions written on it. I won't stay any longer. I'll take my leave first. Wen Liang nodded slightly and instantly shot up into the sky, disappearing into the night. These 2 experts on the hallowed list came and left quickly. Dongbush Shuang looked at the 2 lists. One was from the Serene Shrine, while the other was from the Bloodshed Tavern. In the Bloodshed Tavern, 1. Extraordinary weapons can be chosen at will. The maximum value is 15 kilograms of 3rd-tier origin stones. 2. You can choose any one of the 5 divine secret arts of slaughter. 3. You can choose any chi method you like. 300 kilograms of 3rd-grade origin stones. Over at the Serene Shrine. 1. Extraordinary weapons can be chosen at will. The maximum value is 50 kilograms of 3rd-grade origin stones. 2. You can choose any one of the 10 great divine-level secret arts. 3. You can choose any chi method you like. 150 kilograms of third-tier origin stones. When Dongbu Shuang returned to the castle, he sat on the bed and looked at the paper. Then, he shook his head and said, God-tier secret skill, how tempting! It's a pity that the Serene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern have too many restrictions. As for transcendent weapons and origin stones, on the other hand, Dongbu Shuang did not really care about it. To transcendents, origin stones were extremely important. They could greatly increase the speed of their cultivation. For example, to cultivate from Sky Realm Initial Phase to Saint Realm Initial Phase, disregarding other bottlenecks, just the accumulation of energy. If one were to absorb the energy of heaven and earth, it would take around 700 years. One had to know that a Sky Realm Transcendent only had a lifespan of 800 years. Of course, to break through, the most important thing was still the realm. Origin stones are important, but Elder Leijun prepared a large number of origin stones in order to break through to the demigod level. Although he used up a lot of them, there are still over 3,000 kilograms left. Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. Apart from the Oceanic World Stone and a protective inner armor, all the other valuable treasures that Elder Leijun had accumulated over his lifetime had been sold for origin stones. After exchanging for over 10,000 kilograms of origin stones, he had used up more than half of it for breaking through, but there was still a lot left. Over 3,000 kilograms of origin stones, even a peak Saint Realm expert would not be able to gather more than 3,000 kilograms of origin stones. Only those old fellows who had been adventuring for a long time, or those who were extremely strong like Chichio Bai, or those who had had a fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, a normal peak Saint Realm expert would not be able to gather more than 3,000 kilograms of origin stones. Normal origin stones were all third-tier origin stones. With so many origin stones on him, Dongbu Shuang was naturally rich and overbearing. He placed more importance on techniques. Secret skills. The god-tier secret skills of the Bloodshed Tavern and the Serene Shrine were passed down from the deity realm and were definitely not passed down to outsiders. They were the strongest secret skills in the world. Unless one joined these two sects, or joined the demonic faction, one would not be able to learn any god-tier secret skills. There are too many rules restricting me, making me feel uncomfortable. Dongbu Shuang instantly decided. I'll temporarily give up on these two sections. The more arrogant one was, the more they disliked being restricted. Whether it was the Saint Rankings number 1 Chiu Bai or the Demigod Rankings number 1 Mountain Lord He, either of them were from the Serene Shrine or the Bloodshed Tavern. How could such peerless geniuses be restricted by you? The night passed. Early the next morning, the Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor head Yihong found Dongbu Shuang. Under the pavilion. The two sat facing each other. Lord Dongbu, you've caused me so much trouble, Yihong said helplessly. Last night, I received news that you displayed the profound mystery of the water of myriad existences in the Bellfeather County of the Eastfield Province? Yes. Dongbu Shuang nodded. He had used a stream of water to slap away a group of guards. You've grasped the water and fire of myriad existences at the same time, yet you didn't say anything, Yihong said helplessly. You should know that the stronger you are, the better the conditions that the various transcendent organizations will give you. I've already sent the news to everyone late at night. I'm ashamed. It's my fault, Dongbu Shuang said. Are you still hiding your strength? Yihong asked. Whatever strength you have, just tell me. Does awakening the primordial bloodline as a mortal count? Dongbu Shuang teased. Of course it does. Yihong stared. Can you control the energy of the world? Or power burst? Dongbu Shuang said with a smile that wasn't a smile. Yihong was stunned, then helplessly said, All right, pretend I didn't say anything about this. Power burst was completely useless in comprehending the realm, unless one awakened a second time. But the second awakening of the primordial bloodline was too difficult. Currently, there wasn't a single transcendent in the world who could awaken the primordial bloodline a second time. After all, The moment it was awakened, one would be comparable to a true primordial life form. Eh? Yihong looked at the distant sky in shock. Dongbush Shuang turned to look as well. In midair, two figures were walking side by side. One was a white-haired handsome man, and the other was a beast-man-lion man. Eternal Wind Knight, Zhuqiu Knight, Yihong said in shock. It's them? Dongbush Shuang was shocked as well. The strongest humans amongst saints? In the top 5 of the saint rankings, there was only one human, and that was Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qibai. Saint rankings number 6, Zhuqiu Knight Tanshi, Sea Deity Palace Elder. Started with the profound mysteries of the great mountain of all things. Grasped the true meaning of Zhuqiu. His might is so strong that he can be said to be number 1 amongst saints. Lord Dongbua, it seems like the various organizations hold you in high regard. They've sent their elders, and they're all experts of the saint rankings. Yihong exclaimed. Amen. Dongbua nodded. Including the Dark Knight Blade Demon and the Water Deity Knight, the 4 that came were all experts of the saint rankings. Who? Qiu Qibai and Tanshi landed side by side. Dongbua Shuang. Tanshi grinned. Your 2 uncles are beastmen? Yes. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Tanshi's gaze towards Dongbua Shuang was very intimate. The beastmen had an awkward position amongst the humans. Although the law stated that beastmen had equal status with other humans, there were still some who discriminated against beastmen. Even amongst the transcendents, there were still some who discriminated against beastmen transcendents. Moreover, the number of beastmen transcendents was low, and it was indeed very suffocating. Dongbua Shuiying's relatives had 2 beastmen. This caused Tanshi to have a very good impression of Dongbua Shuiying. Dongbua Shuiying, Qiu Qibai spoke. His voice was rather gentle, and his gaze was reserved. I'm guessing that you've met the people from the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern. In terms of secret arts, our 4 transcendent organizations are definitely inferior to them. However, they have a lot of rules, and are rather strict. My Water Taoist faction can compensate you in other aspects. This is the list. As he spoke, he threw out a piece of paper. Beside him, Tanshi did the same. Yet another 2 lists. Dongbua Shuang took a look. Good heavens, Sea Deity Palace and Water Taoist faction had given even more treasures. Among them, Water Taoist faction had the most. You're from the Tranquil Sun Province, and so am I. Qiu Qibai smiled. I hope that you can join the Water Taoist faction. After all, the 5 northern provinces are under the protection of our Water Taoist faction. My Tranquil Sun Province only has a total of 2 saint experts. I hope that you can be the 3rd. Chan Foam, he has just stepped into the transcendent realm, and you think that he can become a saint? Tanshi teased. I can't guarantee it. Qiu Qibai looked at Dongbua Shuang. Your talent is very good. To be able to step into the transcendent realm at such a young age, and even grasp the profound mysteries of water and fire. Your comprehension is also very high. With such talent, if you are careless and arrogant, you might not be able to step into the saint realm. That would be too shameful. I'm guessing that this time, all the transcendent organizations will send out saint experts. Why? It's because we all think that you can become a saint. I reckon that each organization's conditions are very high. The origin stones they give are enough for you to reach the saint primary phase. For example, the Temple of Earth God and Bloodshed Tavern, I reckon that they would give you a random God tier secret technique? Dongbua Shuang nodded his head lightly. Even the ordinary transcendents from the Temple of Earth God would have to go through a test and contribute in order to get a God tier secret technique. But for Dongbua Shuang, he would get one the moment he joined. For example, with the 600 kilograms of origin stones provided by the Water Taoist faction, Dongbua Shuang would be able to reach the saint primary phase just by absorbing the energy within the origin stones without absorbing any heaven and earth energy. Obviously, all the organizations felt that Dongbua Shuang was a good seedling. In the future, he would be able to become the backbone of the human race. Ha ha, brat, give it your all. Tanshi glanced at Qiu Qibai beside him. In the past 1,000 years, the person beside me was the youngest to step into the transcendent realm. But now you have surpassed him. If you don't even reach the saint realm, Chiu Chibai will definitely be very angry. Chiu Chibai laughed. That afternoon and evening, Cloud Fog City and Black White Deity Mountain sent out their representatives. Similarly, they were all saint-ranked experts. It could be seen how much importance they placed on Dongbu Shuang. From then on, all 6 transcendent organizations sent out invitations. Which side should he join? It all depended on Dongbu Shuang's choice. Chapter 96. The other transcendents left after arriving, but Chiu Chibai and Tanshi, the 2 strongest transcendents on the saint ranking, were temporarily staying at Snowrock Castle. In their words, they were temporarily protecting Dongbu Shuang. Early morning. Dongbu Lai and his wife, Dongbu Shuang, Qingshi, Zhongling, and Tong San were all eating breakfast together. I want to hear father's opinion, Dongbu Shuang said, explaining the pros and cons of joining a large organization. Why would you want to hear our opinion about joining a transcendent organization? Dongbu Lai said. We don't know much about transcendence. In short, whichever is the most suitable for you, just choose, don't worry about us. And Mo Yangnu also said. Right, how many people does our Dongbu clan have? We don't even have enough people to manage Water Rights Town, let alone Azure River County. Don't worry, Dragon Mountain Manor will have enough people. Dongbu Shuang smiled. I'll say it again, choose whichever is the most suitable for you, Dongbu Lai said. Zhongling, Tong San, and Qingshi also agreed. They obviously didn't want to affect Dongbu Shuang's decision. After all, to them, transcendence were the most important matters. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Since that's the case, I'll choose the Water Taoist faction. Water Taoist faction? Dongbu Lai was puzzled. Why? Qingshi also asked. Brother, didn't you say that the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern are the best in terms of secret techniques, and the Black-White Deity Mountain is the best in terms of treasures? Dongbu Shuang lightly nodded. The founders of the Black-White Deity Mountain were 2 extremely powerful transcendent mages. Therefore, the Black-White Deity Mountain had many mages, and would gradually attract more mages. They refined a large number of transcendent weapons and arrays, which attracted many transcendent knights to join them. This way, they could obtain many transcendent weapons at a lower price. The Black-White Deity Mountain managed 6 provinces, and Mountain Lord he was now recognized as the number 1 under the heavens. The Serene Shrine's Bloodshed Tavern has too many rules. It's not suitable for me. Dongbu Shuang laughed. As for the other 4 big organizations, there isn't much difference between them. Since I'm from the Tranquil Sun Province, it's more suitable for me to join the Water Taoist faction. The Water Taoist faction's Eternal Wind Knight Chiu Chibai also treated me very well. In the morning, Dongbu Shuang, Chiu Chibai and Tanshi were all seated in the pavilion. Tower Lord Yihong stood at the side and poured tea for them. Clearly, he was used to serving transcendence. You chose the Water Taoist faction? Tanshi's lion eyes widened as he slapped his thigh and said, It's a pity that he didn't join our Sea God Palace. Your Sea God Palace had no hope in the first place, okay? Chiu Chibai smiled, he was in a good mood. My Water Taoist faction has never treated you as competitors. Tanshi curled his lips. Look at how smug you are. Snow Eagle. Chiu Chibai also addressed him more intimately. From today onwards, we are good brothers. You can just call me Brother Eternal Wind. This? Dongbu Shuang was a little hesitant, because he knew the rules of the 4 great transcendent organizations. Legend Rankers were disciples. Sky Realm Transcendents were protectors. Saint Realm Elders were elders. Demigods were the pinnacle. Even if they weren't the leaders of a transcendent organization, they would still be the Grand Elder, Honorable, Vice Mountain Lord, Vice Temple Lord, and so on. Thus, under normal circumstances, Dongbu Shuang would have to call him Elder Qi or Elder Eternal Wind. Calling him Brother Eternal Wind was a little too arrogant. After all, He was the number one on the Saint board. He had killed the transcendent world's indigenous demigod and defeated the demigod ghost deity Knight Feng Dong. Don't be shy. Most of the transcendents in the Water Taoist faction come from the 5 northern provinces. Our Tranquil Sun province is naturally closer. Qiu Qibai laughed. Previously, our Tranquil Sun province had a total of 9 transcendents. Including you, it would be 10. Among them, Old Ping and I are Saint rankers. The rest are Sky Realm transcendents. I have high hopes for you, or rather, the entire world has high hopes for you. As long as you don't slack off, stepping into the Saint Realm won't be a problem. At that time, our Tranquil Sun province will have 3 Saint rankers. Our Tranquil Sun province will be like brothers, so you don't have to be so polite. Demigod? No one dared to say. A demigod had a lifespan of 3,000 years. However, the entire Water Taoist faction only had 2 demigods. Just like Elder Leijin, he was not bad. He even had the Stone of the Ocean, but he still failed and died. There were too many similar cases. Only someone like Qiu Qibai, who was ranked first on the Saint board and was still young, would be thought to have a high chance of stepping into the demigod realm. Brother Eternal Wind. Dongbush Shuang still didn't call him Brother Eternal Wind. You brat. Qiu Qibai laughed. With a flip of his hand, 3 bracelets appeared in his hand. 1 was black, and 2 were white. This is the communication bracelet, a transcendent alchemy item. The black one is for you. The other 2 are white, and can be considered as ordinary communication bracelets. You can leave them for your family, and you can contact them in the future. These white bracelets are very cheap. 1 gene of origin stones can be exchanged for 5 of them. If you need more, you can go buy them yourself. Dongbush Shui Ying's eyes lit up, and he immediately took them. He kept the white bracelets for the time being. He easily refined the black bracelets with his transcendent qi, and when he put them on his arm, the black bracelets fused into his skin. Eh? Dongbush Shuang sensed it. The inside of the black bracelets seemed to be 3-dimensional. There was a simple serial number, Water Tranquil Sun 29. Your communication serial number is Water Tranquil Sun 29. Qiu Qibai laughed. In the future, when you send messages, others will naturally discover your communication serial number. Every communication serial number represents a transcendent. Eh? Dongbush Shuang was suddenly startled. Because 3 consecutive messages came through his communication bracelets, and his consciousness directly received them. It was extremely mystical. The 3 messages were, Water Tranquil Sun 16, I am Qiu Qibai. See God Toa Yun 9, Kid, I am Tan Shi, this is my communication serial number. Dragon Mountain Tranquil Sun, Master Dongbua, I am Yi Hong. Interesting. Dongbush Shuang felt that it was very mystical. Oh right, there is also a very special serial number. It is called Xia People's Xianhua. Qiu Qibai said. This is a serial number that every transcendent knows. The moment you meet with an extremely important matter or life or death situation, you can immediately ask for help. When you ask for help, you have to provide your location. Your communication bracelets have a map, and you can mark your location on the map, and then send a message to Xia People's Xianhua. Dongbush Shuang nodded his head. Because everything was transmitted through thought, how strong was the soul of a transcendent? Thus, in the blink of an eye, they would be able to transmit the message. Our 6 great transcendent organizations have the absolute advantage in terms of strength. Qiu Qibai laughed. Thus, the demonic faction and other demonic god organizations, as well as the sorcerer god palace, would normally not dare to ambush you. As long as we find out that you are ambushed, a demigod expert that can travel through the void would instantly arrive. What if the opponent is strong enough to kill us in an instant? Dongbush Shuang asked. If we die instantly, the communication bracelets will lose its owner, and will automatically send the location to Xia People's Xianhua. We will also immediately kill our way over. Qiu Qibai said. Thus, in the mortal world, in the infernal world, there would normally not be any danger. Unless the opponent carries the risk of starting a war with the 6 great organizations and insists on killing you. Such a reckless thing rarely happens, even I have not met with it before. Dongbu Shuang heaved a sigh of relief. In terms of position and importance, Qiu Qibai was much higher than him. If the Sorcerer God Palace and the demonic faction wanted to kill a threat, they would probably have to target Qiu Qibai first. But the communication bracelets are unable to send messages outside of a world. Naturally, the world space has an isolating effect. Qiu Qibai said, only after countless years of operation in the infernal world can we naturally communicate with the outside world. But the other transcendent worlds, regardless of whether they are large or small worlds, are all isolated from the outside world. The outside world is unable to contact you. You are also unable to contact the outside world. Thus, entering a transcendent world is very dangerous. On one hand, the aboriginals of the transcendent world hate us. On the other hand, if the Sorcerer God Palace and the demonic faction were to meet you in such a transcendent world, they would most likely kill you. Under such circumstances, being unable to contact the outside world is extremely dangerous. Qiu Qibai said, in the transcendent world, there are times when some of the transcendents from the 6 great organizations would kill you out of greed. After all, being unable to contact the outside world, as long as you do not expose yourself, no one would know. Qiu Qibai looked at Dongbu Shuang and said, fortunately, before stepping into the saint rank, other than the infernal world, transcendents are forbidden from entering other transcendent worlds. Understood. Dongbu Shuang nodded his head. In terms of safety, the 6 great organizations had clearly considered it carefully. When are you going to the Water Taoist faction? Qiu Qibai asked. I have just escaped from the Black Wind Abyss, and have just reunited with my parents. I plan to stay here for a few more days, probably within a month. Then I will depart for the Water Taoist faction. Dongbu Shuang said. Alright, then I won't be staying here any longer. The location of the Water Taoist faction is shown on the map inside the communication wristband. When the time comes, you should hurry over. Qiu Qibai stood up. Tan Shi also smiled and said, Dongbu Shuang, cultivate well and step into the saint rank as soon as possible. That way, we will be able to explore the transcendent world side by side. I will definitely do my best. Dongbu Shuang also stood up to send them off. Hoo-hoo! Qiu Qibai and Tan Shi quickly broke through the sky and disappeared into the horizon. Lord Yihong, who had been standing by the side, smiled and said, Congratulations, Sir Dongbu. Since Sir Dongbu has joined the Water Taoist faction, then Azure River County will naturally be under the control of the Dongbu clan. Since the Dongbu clan does not have enough manpower, our Dragon Mountain Manor will be at your disposal. In the entire Azure River County, the Sea Clan, Zhang Clan and other legend-ranked clans that dare to disobey us will be killed and captured. The Sea Clan has too many claws and teeth in Azure River County, occupying too many official positions. This is a huge obstacle for the Dongbu clan to control Azure River County. Now, I will immediately arrange for the Sea Clan to be chased away. Our Dragon Mountain Manor will temporarily send someone to take over. In the future, the Dongbu clan can always send someone to take over. Actually, our Dragon Mountain Manor is the most straightforward in carrying out orders. All right. Dongbu Shuang nodded. In terms of mundane matters, the Dragon Mountain Manor would handle them very cleanly, resolving the worries of the Transcendents. Chapter 97. Then I'll take my leave. Lord Dongbu can give me any instructions through the communication wristband. Lord Yihong said. Then I'll have to trouble Lord Yihong. Dongbu Shuang nodded. This is what our Dragon Mountain Manor should do. As for Azure River County, I'll make arrangements now. Within 3 days, everything will be ready. After that, I'll send a detailed list of names to Lord Dongbu. Furthermore, I'll also establish a branch of Dragon Mountain Manor at the foot of Snow Rock Mountain to listen to the orders of the Dongbu clan. Lord Yihong said with a smile. Good. Dongbu Shuang was very satisfied. Dragon Mountain Manor was indeed very considerate in handling matters. Following which, Ying turned into a ray of light and flew away. Noon. Snow Rock Castle. In the dining hall of the castle, a family was gathered together for a meal. Dongbush Shuang enjoyed the joy of a family reunion. For this day, he had been longing for and struggling for too long. "Oh yes, father, mother, Azure River County will be taken over by our clan," Dongbush Shuang said. "We'll take over? Then what about the Sea Clan?" Dongbua Lai wasn't afraid. After all, he had risked his life on the line too many times. Furthermore, he managed the entire Snow Eagle territory in an orderly manner. If he really wanted to take over, he would definitely be able to. "That's right, brother. The Sea Clan has deep roots in our Azure River County. They have people in almost every industry," Qingshi said. Dongbush Shuang shook his head. "Deep roots? That's a joke in front of transcendence. In the past, our Azure River County didn't have any transcendence. That's why the Sea Clan could gradually infiltrate and control the entire Azure River County. Now that I've become a transcendent, according to the rules of the Water Taoist faction, Azure River County will naturally be under the control of our Dongbua clan. This is the rule of the Water Taoist faction. Other transcendents can't stop it," Dongbush Shuang said. "Within 3 days, many government positions in Azure River County will be taken over by the people of Dragon Mountain Manor. Furthermore, they will establish a branch of Dragon Mountain Manor at the foot of Snow Rock Mountain to listen to Father's orders. Father, when you have the right people, you can order someone to take over at any time. The people from Dragon Mountain Manor are just passing through," Dongbush Shuang said casually. To him, these mortal powers were meaningless. Transcendents had very long lifespans. In the beginning, they would have more entanglements with mortals, but as time went on, they would have fewer and fewer entanglements with mortals. There were even some transcendents who were so selfish that they didn't care about mortals at all and joined the demon faction. Dongbush Shuang did not care much about other people. However, he still cared about his family. At the very least, he would try his best to let his family live a better life while they were still alive. "Haha, Dongbua." Zhongling smiled and said, "When we risked our lives together, did you think that you would have such a day like this? He will become the first marquis of a 1,000-year-old transcendent family. How could I have imagined it? I wouldn't even dare to dream about it." Dongbo laughed. Dongbush Shuang suddenly looked outside the door. Rumble, under the power of heaven and earth, the doors of the dining hall closed. The Dongbua couple, Qingshi and the rest were all stunned as they looked at Dongbush Shuang in confusion. Why did he suddenly close the doors? Dongbush Shuang waved his hand and 5 large wine vats appeared on the floor. "Snow Eagle, what is this?" Tong San asked curiously. "This is a type of transcendent spiritual liquid," Dongbush Shuang said. "Every wine vat contains more than 150 gene of transcendent spiritual liquid. It is enough for a transcendent to drink for 10 years. The endurance of a mortal's body is weaker. Under normal circumstances, it is enough for a mortal to drink for 100 years. Mo Yangyu was shocked. "Snow Eagle, is this the same spiritual liquid you gave me to drink?" She had drunk it before, so she was very clear about the miraculous effects of this spiritual liquid. It could make up for the many flaws in her body and even heal the injuries to her soul. How miraculous was this? In her opinion, any bottle of this spiritual liquid would be worth a sky-high price. It could heal injuries to the soul. "Ah, that's right," Dongbush Shuang said. This is too precious. Snow Eagle, we use it too." Mo Yangyu wanted to stop him. "I still have more," Dongbush Shuang said. "This is beneficial to your cultivation. I don't lack this. This kind of transcendent spiritual liquid is indeed precious. To avoid trouble, you must not tell anyone, especially Qingshi. No matter how close you are to him, you must not leak this information to anyone. If you really want to give it to others, just say that I gave it to you. Do not let others know that you have so much of it." "Brother, don't worry. I'm not that stupid." Qingshi laughed. Dongbui Shuang nodded his head. This spiritual liquid was very beneficial to transcendent cultivators. To mortals, it was even more shocking. Actually, the spiritual liquid in these 5 wine vats could only be used by transcendents for 50 years. It was worth around 1,500 gene of origin stones. Normally, even if his brother revealed a little and gave some to important people, it would not even be worth half a gene of origin stones. With Dongbui Shuiying's status as a transcendent, it was just a small matter. The amount of spiritual liquid from the stone of oceanic world was not much. The amount was shocking. That piece of stone of oceanic world was enough for a transcendent to use for 1,000 years. It was worth around 30,000 gene of origin stones. It was much more valuable than Dongbui Shuiying's saint-grade inner armor and the pile of origin stones. Even a demigod would be tempted by it. That was why Elder Leijun left behind an array before his death. He would rather destroy it than let the demonic beasts take advantage of it. Shuang also hoped that his family members could live for a longer period of time. Snow Rock Mountain was very peaceful. However, the Azure River County City was in a state of turmoil. From the county lord to the officers of the city guards, everyone was kicked out. "What is your Dragon Mountain Manor doing? You are making an enemy out of my Sea clan and the Water Taoist faction behind us. Lord Sea, if you resist, we can only kill you. What are you doing? Go back and ask your Sea clan's ancestor." When the Dragon Mountain Manor revealed their fangs, the Sea clan's so-called deep-rooted power was completely uprooted. At the same time when the Dragon Mountain Manor acted, the Water Taoist faction also sent a message to the legend rankers of Azure River County, telling them, "Dongbui Shuiying has become a transcendent and will join my Water Taoist faction. Azure River County will be under the control of the Dongbui clan." In terms of seniority, Si Lianghong and the other legend rankers were all disciples of the Water Taoist faction. Dongbui Shuiying was a protector. He was a whole generation higher than them. The Imperial Alchemy Workshop in the county city. This was the largest alchemy workshop in the entire Azure River County. There were a large number of mages researching and working here. It was simply a city within a city. Many of the terrifying tools used by the army were supplied here. In one of the laboratories, the handsome mage Si Chin was conducting some experiments while Kong Yu was watching from the side. "Yu, do you see it? This is the problem with your previous spell model. It's too trivial. The more perfect the spell model is, the closer it is to nature," Si Chin taught from the side. "Actually, when you study the spell model, look at it yourself first. If you feel that it's not natural enough, then there's usually a problem. Even if it can be used, the efficiency will be very low." "Si Chen, you're really amazing," Yu said in admiration. Hee. Si Chen was very satisfied. He rubbed his head. "Try modifying it again." Yu immediately started experimenting. Some of the materials were directly used. The Sea clan was able to place people into the Empire's army. They could also place a genius mage like Si Chen into the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. This kind of workshop had the most abundant materials for experiments. With Si Chen's status, he could experiment as much as he wanted. If it was within the Sea clan, the materials used would still be very painful. But in the Imperial Alchemy Workshop, if it was used up, then so be it. With Si Chen's help, Yu also entered the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. She could experiment as much as she wanted. Her strength improved very quickly. As early as 2 years ago, she had already become a heaven-rank mage. Until now, Yu still maintained a vague relationship with Si Chen. In Yu's words, "We are still young. Let's study spells first. Always like this." Pun. Suddenly, the outside door was pushed open. "There's an experiment here." Si Chen looked outside angrily. It was taboo to disturb someone during an experiment. 2 old mages walked in. One of them was a black-robed mage. "Mage Si Chen, from today onwards, you must leave the Imperial Alchemy Workshop." "Why?" Si Chen was stunned. "There's no why." The black-robed mage looked at Yu who was beside Si Chen. "Mage Yu, you must also leave." Yu was a little confused. Her days here were so comfortable. She could use any materials she wanted. She also knew many powerful mages in Azure River County. This was the place where most mages gathered. Humph, using materials so casually, do you think anyone can? The other red-robed mage sneered. You must leave before nightfall. Otherwise, we can only expel you by force. Very soon. Si Chen, Yu, and the other 12 mages of the Sea clan were all driven out of the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. If they had the ability to bring benefits to the Imperial Alchemy Workshop, they would still be invited to stay. But Si Chen and the others were here to take advantage of them. Although Si Chen was a genius mage, refining alchemy items required experience, patience, and a long time. Si Chen was here for cultivation. He wasted countless materials in his experiments. How could he waste time to make alchemy items? In the past, he had the help of the Sea clan. But now, with a single order from the Dragon Mountain Manor, they were all kicked out. Si Chen, what's wrong? What happened? Yu was at a loss. Even Si Chen, the pride of the Sea clan, was driven out. Even the mages of the Sea clan were driven out. Did the Sea clan lose their power? Nothing. Si Chen was also a little uneasy. Yu was even more worried. After leaving the Imperial Alchemy Workshop, the Sea clan should continue to nurture Si Chen. But what about her? How could the Sea clan nurture her? The Sea clan can cover the sky with one hand in Azure River County. How could they be driven out? What happened? Yu panicked.